Chapter 261, Obito's Death. The spiral pill condensed in Chen's instant bombarded Obito's body, and the strong chakra stirred frantically and instantly smashed the clothes in front of Obito's body. The friction between the high-speed rotating chakra and the flesh made Obito's body pop out. A trace of green smoke caused huge damage to Obito in an instant. This is not over yet. The power of the spiral pill displayed by Chen is not comparable to that of Naruto, especially the spiral pill with Fengdun chakra. The destructive power is even more amazing. The violent chakra is only in the blink of an eye. A wound was torn on Obito's body, and with the stirring of the spiral pill, the wound was expanding at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it took only one breath to pierce through Obito's body, forming a hole, no matter what. Muscles or other organs have been crushed. After Chen disarmed the ability of the slaughterhouse, the movement in the room also returned to normal. The only difference was that Obito had not figured out the situation at the moment when Chen disarmed his ability. Fei smashed the door of the room and flew out of the room. After Obito was knocked into the air, the divine power he created was naturally unsustainable and dissipated in the space at once. With such a transformation, Obito was completely unaware of what was going on. He was about to struggle to stand up, but the powerful destructive power of Fengdun Spiralen completely destroyed his function. He was already unable to do anything. A burst of piercing pain struck. Obito couldn't hold back a mouthful of blood that suddenly spewed out of his mouth, dripping down the ground along the mask. He already felt a domineering chakra remaining in his body. It destroyed his function, making Mudun's recovery ability ineffective, and his injuries could not recover. He had already felt that his vitality was gradually fading, and he would die soon. What is this? What happened? What happened? What did you do to me? Obito immediately asked Uchiha Chen after relieving the pain a little. His tone was the same as that of a dying person, is extremely weak, although he is about to die, but he also has to figure out why it has become like this. Obito really couldn't understand all the changes that happened in front of him. He clearly had one in his cognition. He had already caught Uchiha Chen and used his divine power. He was about to inhale Uchiha Chen with his unique divine power. In the space, how could such a huge change happen in less than a blink of an eye? How could he not be shocked? Chen just smiled at Obito's questioning, walked up to Obito with a victorious attitude, looked down at the embarrassed Obito, and said without mind, "Are you surprised? Just like your strange ability, this is also the ability derived from my kaleidoscope writing wheel eye. The moment you touched me just now, I activated my ability and created a special space where everything in this space will be. I will be slowed down countless times, even my thoughts, and I am the only one who can move freely without restriction." "No, impossible. The ability of your kaleidoscope writing wheel. I have already investigated. Your ability is the same as Itachi. A writing wheel can only have one ability. Your writing wheel eyes already have Yudo and Amaterasu. How can they still have such a strange ability? This is impossible." Chen's words broke Obito's long-term cognition. He couldn't believe what Chen said, and it has never been able to evolve since ancient times. There are very few people who have reached the kaleidoscope to write round eyes. Even if they have evolved, they are all derived from one eye. Everything Chen said made Obito unbelievable. In the previous life, in the anime that Chen had watched, a phenomenon appeared many times. That is, the protagonist and the villain in the anime had a big fight, and then the villain used some kind of trick to beat the protagonist to nothing. The strength to fight back. Whenever this time comes, the villain who was about to kill the protagonist will stop, and then complacently show off his unique skills, saying how awesome his skills are, and at the same time kill his own skills like death. The weakness tells the protagonist to say something like "You can't win against me." In the end, the protagonist seized the opportunity, and an outbreak took the villain away. Whenever I see such a plot, Chen can't help but complain about such a setting, but at this time his behavior is the same as those villains who kill themselves in the anime, but after it was Chen's turn to experience it himself, he didn't. I feel that something is wrong. No wonder the villains in the anime like this kind of death-defying behavior, because Chen found that when he saw the look of his opponent's astonishment and disbelief, this kind of feeling is really, very cool. It was only now that Chen realized that the villain would act like this, not because the villain likes to die, but because the villain is confident in his own ability, because he always believes that no one can break his ability, so he doesn't mind. Tell your weaknesses, but unfortunately the protagonist is the protagonist after all, and there is nothing that can't be done with the protagonist's halo, so this kind of villain is often handsome, but it is taken away by the protagonist's outbreak after 3 episodes. Maybe it's because my eyes are special, you haven't heard of it doesn't mean it doesn't, who can explain this kind of thing clearly? Well, your function has been completely destroyed by me, you can't live anymore, you should be dead. It looks like a dead person, hurry up and breathe out. Consciousness has gradually disappeared, and Obito, who is about to die, is obviously angry after hearing what Chen said. He opened his eyes wide and stared at Chen unwillingly, but in the end his pupils dissipated, and he swallowed the last in one breath. Hey, you dare to show off in front of me even with this little strength, I really don't know how to live or die. After killing the gangster, Chen sneered coldly at Obito's corpse, then turned around and ignored it. At this time, many people had been alarmed by the fluctuations in the battle between the two. The Eagle Squad arrived first and expressed surprise when they saw the body of Obito lying at Chen's feet. However, the uniform on Obito's body, they are no strangers. Chapter 262, Leave. This battle came and ended quickly. It only took a few minutes from Obito's appearance to the present. With Obito's death, the room returned to tranquility, but the fluctuations caused by the battle just now were gone. It was noticed that the first people who rushed over were the other members of the Eagle Squad, Uchiha Sasuke, Suzui and the other 4. After everyone in the team arrived, they couldn't help but express their surprise when they saw this scene, but when they saw a corpse in the unique uniform of the Xiao organization lying at the feet of Chen, the Xiao organization knew that Shuiyu and Changwu had been with them before. The corners of the undead duo have fought each other, and they are no strangers to the Xiao organization. Although they do not understand what happened, judging from the situation at the scene, it should be the Xiao organization who approached Chen, but was killed by Chen. Died. Shuiyu, who was planning to rest, suddenly noticed an unusual chakra fluctuation. The source was in the direction of Chen's room. In surprise, Shuiyu rushed over and saw Sasuke and others who had the same idea. After seeing the corpse under Chen's feet and the traces of the fight, he asked Chen in surprise, "Boss, what's going on with this Xiao organization?" "It's nothing, maybe because of the 5 Shadows meeting. Ling Xiao felt some kind of threat, so he wants to talk to us temporarily, and wants to unite with us to fight against the 5 Shadows." Chen said indifferently. "So that's how you want to work with us?" "Huh, it's this guy." Compared with the reaction of the rest of the Eagle Squad, Sasuke recognized Obito's identity after seeing the mask on Obito's face. Sasuke had already met this guy before. Several times, the first time was when we captured Sanwei. At that time, Obito and Deidara were also capturing Sanwei. The two sides met unexpectedly and had the same purpose. Naturally, a fierce battle was inevitable, but at that time it was not Obito but Deidara who played, and Obito was just watching from the sidelines. The final result was that Sasuke narrowly defeated Deidara. Although Deidara was forced to blow himself up, Sasuke was also seriously injured, and there was not much left. The fighting ability is up. I thought that Obito, who was waiting on the side, would take advantage of Sasuke's weakness, but Obito didn't do it, just took Sanwei away, and even gave up revenge for Deidara, so let it go. Sasuke, this strange behavior made Sasuke deeply puzzled, and naturally he also had a deep impression on Obito. The second time Sasuke saw Obito was not long ago. After he went to find Itachi himself, he appeared and said some inexplicable things to himself, but Sasuke did not bird him. This time it was theirs. It was the third time we met, but I didn't expect to be killed by Chen. Let's go. The movement just now has alarmed other people. I don't want to entangle with them now, so I will leave here first. There are already many people coming here. They should be the warriors of the Iron Kingdom. If those people are entangled, the 5 Shadows will definitely be disturbed, and the 5 Shadows conference may not be able to open at that time, so Chen plans to temporarily leave here and find another place to stay. Although the strength of several people is not weak, but after all, the goal is too big, so Chen first put everyone in the Eagle squad into the space, and then looked at the corpse of Obito playfully, with a meaningful smile on his face, and finally in an instant, he disappeared in place and disappeared into the night, leaving only the corpse with soil lying on the ground alone. However, just after Chen left, a strange thing happened. Obito, who had already been punched through a hole by Chen, had already been confirmed dead, but his body gradually disappeared after Chen left, and then there was a sudden wave of space fluctuations. A spiral space vortex appeared, followed by a black figure walking out of the vortex, looking thoughtfully at the direction Chen left. What's amazing is that the identity of this man in black turned out to be Obito, who disappeared before. He had already been killed by Chen, but he didn't expect to reappear at this time, and the hole caused by Chen's penetration had disappeared. There was no sign of injury at all, and he was looking at Chen's departure direction and said in a low voice, "Uchiha Chen, I thought I had looked up to you as much as possible, but I didn't expect to seriously underestimate you, and the strange ability even broke my cognition of the kaleidoscope shaker, and I lost one eye. It seems that I can no longer see you with ordinary eyes, but I believe we will meet again soon." It turns out that the previous Obito was attacked by Chen and was dying, but don't forget that Obito belongs to the Uchiha family and has a writing wheel eye, and there was once a forbidden technique in the Uchiha family. This forbidden technique is called for Izanagi. It only takes a very short period of time to instantly transform all unfavorable factors including death into a dream, and can transform all favorable factors into reality, so that you can escape from the claws of the god of death, but using Izanagi. The price of Zanaki is that a Sharingan will be permanently blinded, so it is listed as a forbidden technique by the Uchiha family. So there is this scene. At this moment, the sound of footsteps in the distance interrupted Obito's thoughts. Obviously, the samurai of the Iron Country had already felt it, but Obito didn't care, just looked at it indifferently, and then activated the divine might. The vortex appeared again and sucked Obito into the space, and then dissipated, as if nothing had happened, but the chaos on the scene foreshadowed what happened here. Finally, after Obito left, the warriors of the Iron Kingdom arrived late. However, apart from the messy scene left to them, they didn't even know what was going on. In the end, they could only call the inn owner to check the room. Unfortunately, no valuable information was found about the guests' information, because Chen had already performed illusions on the inn owner when he registered, so the warriors of the Iron Country eventually withdrew helplessly. Chapter 263. The talks begin. This episode did not alarm the high-level officials of the Iron Country. After all, only a few traces of fighting were found in the small hotel, and there were no casualties, so it did not cause panic, and it was not a major event. The warriors had no choice but to retreat. Chen also slipped into a civilian's house after leaving the Shao Hotel. An illusion brought down the owner of the house and then hid in it, waiting for the arrival of tomorrow. On the other side, in an uninhabited place somewhere in the country of Iron, a wave of space fluctuations appeared out of thin air to form a spiral black hole, and then Obito in Akatsuki uniform and a spiral mask walked out of the black hole. How? It's going well, right? Just after Obito walked out of the black hole, a hoarse voice suddenly came, breaking the infiltrating tranquility, and then a figure came from behind Obito, which was the intelligence of Shao's organization. Staff, absolutely, and the one who made the sound just now was Heiju, who had not spoken much. It's not very smooth. Uchiha Chen rejected my proposal, and it seems that he doesn't want to join us. But I always feel that this guy is not as simple as it appears on the surface. He may be there as a plan, but we can't speculate what his purpose is now. Facing Heiju's question, Obito said indifferently. Oh, that's it, this is a troublesome guy, but we may be able to start with Sasuke. After all, Uchiha Itachi is dead, which can be regarded as a thorn in the side, and the condition of not being able to shoot at Konoha has also become an empty piece of paper is also good news. Isn't it? Heiju said in a gloomy tone. That's true, it's really been a long time, but it's worth it to make the plan go ahead, but Itachi seems to have expected that I would encourage Sasuke, and he has already kept his hand, plus Chen Uchiha is there. It is impossible to attack Sasuke, and Uchiha Chen is an unstable factor for our plan after all. We must try to win him over, not to mention that he still holds the most important tail in our plan. Beast, as long as we can draw him over, our plan is half completed. Obito said coldly. Is that so? But he has already rejected our proposal. Do you think he will accept it? At this time, Baiju suddenly interjected, and his tone seemed to be full of schadenfreude. Yes, that guy has already attacked the 2 ninja villages of Union and Konoha, and now the 5 major countries have planned the 5 Shadows talks. Although I have contact with this person for the first time, he gives me the feeling that he is very the ambitious guy. Since he is the same traveler and has the same goal at this stage, that guy will cooperate with us. The body of the vortex is gradually being sucked into the vortex with the appearance of the vortex. I believe that when we meet next time, he will definitely accept our proposal. After Obito finished his last words, the vortex had completely sucked Obito's body into the space, and then gradually dissipated. Really? I hope so. Tilde. As Obito disappeared, Heiju said with a gloomy smile, as if responding to Obito's words, as if he was talking to himself, but with following his words, his body was gradually sinking into the ground, and finally the whole person disappeared into the ground until he disappeared. The meeting between the two was only a short conversation, and they left without saying anything. The place also returned to its previous tranquility with the departure of the two, as if no one had ever appeared. A lot of things happened that night, but the various forces in the Kingdom of Iron did not know about it, because the warriors of the Kingdom of Iron did not notice anything unusual, so the upper levels of the Kingdom of Iron only followed the instructions of the 5 kingdoms. I only arranged matters related to the 5 Shadows talks, so after the investigation of the samurai came to nothing, it was quiet. Silent night. The next day, the light of the morning light fell on the snow-covered surface of the Iron Country again, making the snow country still bright as noon on a sunny day even when the sun just came out. The pure white snow also seems to be venting his expectations to this mercenary ninja world. However, no matter how pure the snow in the Iron Country is today, it is destined to be stained with other colors today. After receiving the notification that Reading will organize the 5 countries to hold the 5 Shadows meeting in the Iron Country not long ago, Mifune has already dealt with the meeting address and related preparations. The 5 Shadows of the meeting. The first hidden village to come is obviously Union Village. After all, as the initiator of the meeting, it is natural to arrive earlier than the other hidden villages. I saw that the place of the meeting had already been sent by the Kingdom of Iron. Samurai, heavily guarded in all directions, to ensure that there will be no mistakes in the meeting. When the shadows of the 5 hidden villages came in person, the Kingdom of Iron naturally also sent Mifune, a general who is very prestigious in the Kingdom of Iron, to meet and be in charge of all the affairs during the meeting, which is enough to prove that the Kingdom of Iron attaches great importance to this meeting. I saw that the general of the Iron Country led a few samurai to greet Raikage, and at the same time politely said, "Lord Raking, they've been waiting for a long time, you are the first one to arrive, please go ahead and rest for a while. I'm very sorry, because the people from the other hidden villages haven't arrived yet, so I need to welcome the shadows from each village here. Raikage-sama, let's go in and have a rest first." The Kingdom of Iron is a country composed of samurai. As the general of the Kingdom of Iron, he is naturally the strongest samurai in the Kingdom of Iron. His identity is comparable to the shadows of the villages of the 5 major countries, and naturally he will not behave arrogantly in front of the 5 shadows. Yeah, Raikage didn't say much, nodded and said, and then walked towards the meeting place with 2 guards, Darui and Nishi. After Raikage, Kazekage of the Kingdom of Wind, then Hokage, the agent of the Kingdom of Fire, and Sokage of the Kingdom of Earth all rushed to enter the venue, but only the people from the Kingdom of Water actually waited. He didn't show up for a long time. Chapter 264, 5 Shadow Talks. In the conference room at this time, both Yunyin and Xiaoyin were already seated. For Xiaoyin's young Feng Ying, Lei Ying was obviously a little underestimated, so after Feng Ying entered the meeting room, he just gave a symbolic nod. Even if he said that, he didn't have much conversation with Gaara. And Gaara naturally understood Raikage's thoughts and didn't care, and he was not the kind of person who talked a lot. Kankuro and Tamari behind Luo were obviously not so good-natured. Seeing Raikage so despised Kazekage, they were already angry. When they were about to say something, they were stopped by Gaara, and in the end, only helplessly followed. Behind Gaara, acted as a guard, but the faces of the two of them didn't look very good. At this time, Konoha from the Fire Nation also entered the field. It was Konoha's agent, Hokage Hatake Kakashi. He was only followed by Konoha's Akai, who also acted as a guard, because the Fire Nation and Wind the country is an allied country, and the relationship is naturally closer, so after entering the venue, Kakashi said hello to Gaara. Lord Kazekage, long time no see. Following Kakashi's words, Gaara opened her originally squinted eyes. After seeing Kakashi, Gaara's eyes showed a hint of surprise. Although she was puzzled, Gaara didn't ask any further questions. Just responded, I didn't expect Konoha to be you. Long time no see, Your Excellency Kakashi. At this time, when Raikage saw that the person from Konoha was not Tsunade, he couldn't help but ask, what's the matter? Isn't Konoha's Hokage Tsunade? Why did you come to the meeting? You can represent the whole of Konoha. Yi's decision. Obviously it was an ordinary question, but Raikage's tone made people uncomfortable, as if questioning, you must know that the people who came to the meeting were the leaders of the entire village, even Kaka, who was acting as Hokage. She, whose identity has also been recognized by the village, is naturally on an equal footing with the shadows present. Now that people are asking such questions, he is naturally a little unhappy, but he also knows the seriousness of the matter, so there is no attack, but he said with a bad face, I am sorry, Raikage-sama, our 5th generation Hokage-sama Tsunade was injured a little because of Uchiha Chen's incident and was unable to come to the meeting. This time, I will participate in this meeting as the 6th generation representative Hokage. The meaning I express will directly represent the Konoha aspect, so Raikage-sama doesn't have to worry about that. Quote. Really, Konoha really has no one. It's just ridiculous to let a small junior Shennin represent Konoha to participate in the 5 Shadows talks. Facing Kakashi, he was neither humble nor arrogant and slightly counterattacked. Raikage is already a little unhappy at the moment. If Raikage feels disdain for Gaara to participate in this meeting as a shadow, then Kakashi acts as a proxy for Hokage to participate in the 5 Shadows as a join-in. During the meeting, Raikage felt from the bottom of his heart that this was simply Konoha's unreasonableness towards him. Raikage, who was so dignified, wanted to sit at the same conference table with Kojinin to discuss matters. Just as Raing finished speaking, Kankuro, who was standing behind Gaara, spoke up. Lord Raikage, since Kakashi was able to participate in the 5 Shadows talks as an agent of Hokage, it is naturally with the permission of Konoha, and his identity can already be compared with everyone, and Kakashi has just made it clear. The 5 generations of Hokage Tsunade were injured in the last attack by Uchiha, so why did Mr. Raikage keep asking, recalling when Uchiha attacked Union Village, if I remember correctly, even you, it seems that months. Kankuro. Gaara, who was on Kankuro's side, frowned slightly when he heard the words, and quickly interrupted Kankuro's words, not to be afraid. If you don't have a good time, it won't do anyone any good. Even though Kankuro stopped what he was going to say due to Gaara's restraint, but the words had come to this point, but the meaning he was going to express was already self-evident. I don't know when they were locked together. Let's get carried away. It's just a guard, it's your turn to speak. With Raikage's anger, a light blue mist lit up around him, and the whole person's aura suddenly increased to the point where people couldn't look directly. The clenched fist has condensed amazing power. Bang! There was a loud noise, and before everyone could react, Lei Ying smashed his fist directly on the conference table in front of the seat, and the entire conference table was instantly fragmented with the loud noise, and the broken sawdust was the same. Wearing the light blue mist on Raikage's body, he shot towards Kankuro. In the face of Raikage's reckless act of directly shooting, the representative of the land of sand who bears the brunt will naturally not sit still. I saw Gaara waved his hand, and a large amount of gravel was immediately sprayed from the gourd on his back, and after some squirming, a sand shield was formed in front of him and Konkuro. Although the oncoming sawdust was not weak, after touching the sand shield, all of it lost its original infinity and turned into ordinary debris scattered on the ground. Looking at Reikage on the opposite side, Gaara, whose momentum was dissipated without a single blow, did not return the released gravel to the gourd for a while. Kakashi and Matekai, who were on the side, saw that the situation was not right, and slowly moved to me. On the side of Ira and Konkuro, there was a faint tendency to oppose Reikage. The 5 shadow talks that were originally planned for a long time with the intention of alliance, but under the strike of Reikage, suddenly became a bit tense. At this moment, it also reflects the gap and contradiction between the 5 major ninja villages. The original relationship villages that were not friendly, and even once belonged to hostile relations, are now gathered for some reason, and conflicts will naturally arise. If you want to sit down and talk calmly, it is easier said than done. Yay! Today's young people are really energetic. The atmosphere in the conference room has dropped to freezing point. As long as one party makes a change, a battle may be triggered. However, at this tense moment, a leisurely voice reached everyone's ears, which eased the tense situation. Everyone looked at the prestige, and saw a short old man, accompanied by a middle-aged strong man, slowly walking into the conference room. After seeing everyone turning their attention to himself, the old man did not appear restrained. Ha ha ha, with a smile, he said, "Sorry, people are old and have bad legs, so everyone can wait." The person who can appear in this conference room is naturally not an ordinary person. This person is the contemporary soil shadow of Yenian village in the land of the earth. 2 days to flatten Onogi. Chapter 265, 5 Shadow Talks continued. With the appearance of the Earth Shadow, the already tense situation in the meeting room was relieved. I saw Reikage glaring at Gaara, and finally snorted, and scattered the Thunder-Dun armor, and then stabbed the ground. He sat back in his seat, and Gaara also controlled the sand to reintroduce the sand back into the sand gourd after Reikage finished, and then sat back to his position. After Toying entered the venue, as if he didn't know the situation on the scene, he just walked to his seat and sat down, looked at the people in the conference room, and joked, "Oh. Konoha, Union, Sheindu, it seems that everyone in Wuin village has not arrived yet. It seems that I am not the last one to arrive, old man." Humph. In the face of Tsuchikage's ridicule, the irritable Reikage just snorted coldly, while Kakashi from Konoha and Gaara from Sandian didn't make a sound, just sitting quietly in their own seats, waiting for the meeting to start. As everyone took their seats, everyone seemed to be waiting for the people from Wuin village to appear, and none of the people present were the first to speak, and the entire conference room fell into a strange calm. However, after a while, everyone waited and waited, and the people from Hidden Mist village still showed up. On the surface, no one showed any emotion, but they were already a little dissatisfied. Boom tilde. The first one who couldn't help it was the most grumpy Reikage. I saw that he slammed the table without warning and said dissatisfiedly, "Damn. What the hell is this Hidden Mist village doing? Did you forget that today is a meeting day?" Kakashi squinted slightly at the irritable Reikage and said indifferently, "Lord Reikage, please be patient. I believe it is impossible for Wuin village to ignore today's meeting. Maybe it was delayed by something. Anyway, everyone, it's already here, and I don't care about waiting a little longer, let alone talking about others behind their backs. It's a bit rude to say anything." Reikage obviously didn't appreciate Kakashi's reminder, and said angrily, "Hey. I don't need you to teach me, old man. Okay, bad boy, you are the initiator of this meeting. You should have paid more attention because of the alliance of the 5 major countries, instead of letting your temper make the situation of each other rattling. I think you made this statement. This meeting should not be to fight with Sand Ninja Village and Konoha." Kakashi came to participate in the meeting on behalf of Konoha this time. Naturally, he can be on an equal footing with me. Let's discuss after Mizukage is also present. Compared with Reikage, Tuakage is much more stable, and he doesn't care who is present, as long as the other party can speak on behalf of the forces behind him. Enough. After a long time, the people of Wuyin village have not yet appeared. At this time, not only Reing, but also other people are also a little unhappy. After all, it has been waiting for so long, and Mifune, who was originally outside the conference room as a welcome guest, is early. He had already entered the conference room. After all, he had already waited and the people from Wuyin village had not yet appeared. He couldn't stand outside all the time, so he also returned to the conference room after waiting for a long time without seeing anyone. After not seeing the people from Wuyin village for a long time, Reikage couldn't help saying again, "Damn, the people of Wuyin don't know what the hell they are doing. We don't have to wait for them, let's have a meeting quickly." This time, no one spoke for the people of Wuyin village. After all, everyone was a little impatient, and I saw Tu Yingqing coughed a few times, and then said, "Cough. Cough. Wuyin village is indeed a bit too much. No, do you know that it is very rude to keep an old man waiting for a long time? If so, then we don't have to wait for them anymore." I agree with Reikage, let's start the meeting. Kakashi and Gaara glanced at each other, both of them reached a consensus, and said at the same time, "We have no objection, let's start the meeting." Seeing that the other shadows had no opinion, Reikage said to Mifune, who presided over the meeting, "Your Excellency Mifune, let's start the meeting." Mifune nodded. Then he walked to the middle of the conference room and sat down, and then said to the 4 representatives of various countries participating in the conference below, "I am in charge of the 3 ships here, now please put the hats on the table." After all the shadows did, Mifune continued to announce, in response to Reikage-sama's call, except for the absent Mizukage-sama, all the shadows have already arrived. So, I announce that the 5 shadow talks have officially begun. Just when the shadows from each village started to talk, just outside the meeting place, a group of people were quietly sneaking into the meeting place. This group of people was just Chen and his eagle squad. Relying on Chongo's ability to communicate with animals, they learned of the meeting place from some birds, where the guards were weak, and then successfully sneaked into the meeting place. At this time, everyone in the eagle squad was hiding in a dark place behind a high wall. Xianglin was closing his eyes to perceive the chakra movement in the clubhouse, and felt several unusual chakras in the dense chakra. After karatizing, he suddenly opened his eyes and said softly to the people around him, "There are many people, the guards here are too strict, and I feel a few powerful chakras in them. The strength is not lower than Orochimaru, it seems that it should be, that's it." Hearing that Xianglin had found the location, Chen smiled with interest and said, "Oh, I have found it. Do you know who the person sent by Konoha is?" "I only remember the chakra of one of them. It seems to be a copy of Konoha's ninja, Kakashi Hatake, and the other one, I have no impression." Xianglin replied. Hearing Kakashi's name, Sasuke's eyes showed a little surprise, but it was only fleeting, and then he returned to his indifferent expression, and no one noticed the change in Sasuke's expression. Although Kakashi used to be Sasuke's leading teacher, and even taught him the powerful ninjutsu of Chidori, it's just that time has changed, and after learning the truth of Konoha's persecution of the Uchiha family, even though he still has teachers and students in his heart. But now facing Hatake Kakashi, who is the core of Konoha's join, Sasuke no longer has the feeling of being a teacher for one day and a father for life. After Xianglin finished speaking, Chen sneered and said, "Oh, Kakashi, interesting, didn't expect him to become Hokage after Tsunade. But these are not important, anyway, no matter who is Hokage, the result is same. Okay, now that they're all here, it's our turn to play." Quote ellipsis. Chapter 266, 5 Shadows Talk 3. At this time, at the same time as the 5 Shadows talks were going on, Chen and his eagle squad also began to take action. "Xianglin, tell us the location. There will be a battle next, you can't help much, just go to my space and avoid it," Chen said to Xianglin indifferently. "I see," Xianglin did not refute. After all, her main ability is still support, and her combat effectiveness is not strong. Although she can protect herself, it is better to avoid it in this situation. You must know that the current conference room can be they are all guarded by heavy troops, and the shadows of each village are gathered here, and there are powerful guards around them, all of them are masters. In such a situation, Chen was also worried that once the battle broke out, he would not be able to care so much, so it was better to let Xianglin hide first to save trouble. After Xianglin said the position, Chen put Xianglin into the space, and all the fighters left behind were the fighters of the Eagle Squad, and their strength was not bad. After sending Xianglin away, Chen also had no scruples, and said to Sasuke and others with a sneer, "Okay, since we already know the location, it's time for us to play." "Boss, what are you going to do? The guards in the conference room are too dense, we can't sneak in at all. We will be discovered." Seeing that Chen seemed to be acting, Shuiyu asked quickly. "Sneak in? No, don't bother." Then, Shuiyu thought that Chen thought of some way, just wanted to ask, but was interrupted by Chen. "Just rush in," Chen said lightly, as if he didn't take the so-called five shadows talk in his eyes at all. Then Chen looked at Sasuke and said, "Sasuke, this time it's up to you to open the way." "I see." Sasuke glanced coldly at the direction of the Five Shadows conference, and said indifferently, while the grass pheasant sword was already unsheathed, and a cold glow appeared in the hidden darkness. With the scabbard of the grass pheasant sword, Sasuke didn't say much. Before Shuiyu had time to be surprised, he attacked outright, and attacked the unsuspecting guards first, and those guards only saw a flash of cold light. Before he could figure out what happened, a piece of blood was sprayed from his body. In an instant, blood splattered and mourning screamed. After Sasuke had chopped down a few people, the samurai responded and sounded the alarm. "Enemy attack! Enemy attack! There are intruders!" After hearing the alarm, the surrounding guards also surrounded and killed the intruders. It's a pity that the gap between them and Sasuke is too obvious. Sasuke is unstoppable as if he is in a state of no one. No one is his enemy of unity, and all of them are killed by a knife. Seeing this, a samurai who seemed to be the captain felt anxious in his heart, and hurriedly wanted to restrain Sasuke, but he overestimated himself. He was beheaded by a sword after only 2 rounds of fighting with Sasuke. The samurai had already been in chaos as a group, but some people have already gone to the Five Shadows venue to report. Meanwhile, in the conference room, the Five Shadow talks initiated by Lei Ying, due to the delay in the presence of the Water Shadow, after negotiation by all parties, in desperation, under the auspices of Mifune, the 4 shadows of fire, thunder, wind, and earth started of talks. Although there was some friction before that, the talks officially kicked off under the auspices of Mifune. "Let me talk first, listen carefully." Just after Mifune announced the start, Gaara spoke first, but before he could say what he wanted to express, he was cut off by the voice next to him. "I saw," Toying said slowly, "the 5 shadows have changed so much. It's amazing to become a shadow at a young age. Your Highness Feng Ying, it seems that your education is good, but it's a pity that you didn't teach etiquette." For Gaara to become Kazekage at such a young age, not only Reikage, but also Tsuchikage despised Gaara, a young shadow, and among the people present, Tsuchikage is the oldest. I Love Luo is only a junior, and it has been tolerated again and again to let him share the stage with himself. Now this junior actually humbly yields to the senior present, but he opened his mouth first, so how can he accept it? Yes, otherwise, why would you be here as Kazekage? Gaara ignored Kankuro, who was already gnashing his teeth in anger behind him, but gave Tsukage a soft counterattack without being humble or arrogant. "Ha ha ha, what an arrogant guy," Ying sneered when he saw that he had hit a soft nail. "Ahem, Kazuki-sama, please continue." Seeing that the scene became a little embarrassing, Kakashi, who was sitting beside Kokage, stood up to ease the atmosphere and signaled Gaara to continue. "I was Renzuli, I was caught by Xiao, and I was forcibly pulled out the tailed beast and almost died, so I think Xiao is a very dangerous existence. I have asked everyone for help, but they have been ignored, except for the former on behalf of Hokage. Now that almost all the tailed beasts of the major countries have been taken away, Zidao wants to join forces now, don't you think it's too late? Gaara first stated his own experience and the previous diplomacy of the Kingdom of Sand the situation, although the truth is stated, but in the words, it is faintly revealing the dissatisfaction with the behavior of the other 3 shinobi villages except Konoha. Hey, if you turn to other countries for help once the 5 big kingdom-tailed beasts are captured, I'm afraid it will be laughed out of your ears when it spreads to the ears of those small countries. Yes, brat. Gaara's remarks seemed to Tsuchikage to be nothing but absurd remarks that didn't make sense. Face and dignity are really pedantic. Gaara doesn't bother to talk too much. As a shadow, he naturally won't let Toying belittle himself wantonly because he is older. It has nothing to do with etiquette, just because he is a shadow. I didn't call you here to argue long-windedly. In the end, Akatsuki's members are made up of the rebellious ninjas of your ninja village, especially the reckless Uchiha Chen. Reikage said here, his gaze turned to Kakashi as if he was questioning, does Konoha still keep silent about this? I didn't plan to talk to you about the so-called cooperation at all. For today's meeting, I'm just purely investigating. You are to blame. Hearing Tsuchikage and Gaara throwing soft nails at each other, Reikage couldn't hold back and slammed his fist on the conference table. If Reikage-sama can fight against Akatsuki and Uchiha Chen at the same time with the power of union alone, we can leave us alone and face it. Everyone here represents the interests of their respective ninja villages. I think at this time we are sitting together to pursue the responsibility of which party is responsible. It is meaningless now. On the issue of Akatsuki and Uchiha Chen, the only way is to form a group. It is in our best interest to deal with a joint force of the ninja world composed of 5 countries. Quote. Report. General of the 3 ships, the enemy attacked. Enemy attack. Just as the conversation was in full swing, the warriors of the Iron Kingdom rushed into the conference room in a state of embarrassment. Chapter 267, Hunting 8 Tails. Just as the 5 Shadows talks were in full swing, Union Village in the Land of Thunder, after experiencing the indelible pain caused by Uchiha Chen, unexpectedly welcomed his uninvited guest again. Union Village, Leiyan Gorge. The terrain of Leiyan Gorge is dangerous and remote. Compared with the mountains and peaks, the peaks of Leiyan Gorge are more like stalagmites standing on the river. The steep peaks that are not connected to each other are towering like clouds. The river, covered by the fog, can indeed be regarded as a wonderful hiding place. Coupled with the strength of the 8-tailed Kurabi, the country of thunder has placed the 8-tailed human pillar here, which can be described as double insurance. At this moment, Kurabi, who is the 8-tailed person Zuli, is as usual. After finishing his practice, he is still humming some raps that others can't understand, dancing strange dance steps and walking out of the cave where he cultivated. On a certain mountain peak in the canyon, 2 figures were watching Kurabi's actions. One of the 2 had light blue hair and was wearing the uniform of the Shao organization with red clouds on a black background, and the other, it turned out to be the leader of the Shao organization who had fought with Chen before, Tiandao Pain. The 2 of them appearing here at this time are obviously plotting against the 8 Tails. Xiaonan looked a little puzzled after seeing Kurabi's strange behavior, and said in surprise, "Is this the 8-tailed man Zuri? He seems to be an idiot." At this time, Kurabi, who was amusing himself and having fun, naturally didn't know that he was being targeted, and still held his index finger with both hands, pointing out of thin air, and from time to time a few words of feeling good about himself came out of his mouth. The lousy rap, or making a fuss about what was recorded in the notebook that never left his waist like a treasure, plus the 7 daggers that almost filled his entire back, it would not be worthless to become Xiaonanku's idiot. Tiandao Pain stared blankly at Kurabi, who was dancing a weird dance at the foot of the mountain, and said indifferently, being weird, wearing sunglasses, wearing 8 knives with the word iron on his right shoulder, and horn marks on his left cheek, and the characteristics of the intelligence are the same. He is the 8-tailed person Zuri, our target this time. After confirming the identity of the other party, Xiaonan's eyes became serious and asked Pain, "Do you want to do it here?" Tiandao Pain looked at Xiaonan indifferently, and said coldly, "Well, but you don't need to take action. This time I will let Lu Dao Pain act together. There will be no mistakes, you just need to pay attention to the movement of union. That's it. Because the 6 paths of pain were all transformed from corpses, they couldn't make any expressions, and they looked like they were paralyzed. Xiaonan didn't mind Pain's attitude. He was obviously used to it. After hearing Pain's words, Xiaonan was indifferent. Replied, I see. After the two negotiated, they started to act, only to see Tiandao Pain's eyes condensed, as if linking the control of other Pain, and then Tiandao fell silent again, becoming as indifferent as ever. Between the mountains and mountains of Layan Gorge, within the canyon, I saw a huge bird flying over the turbulent water surface, and slowly going straight to the depths of the canyon in the direction of the countercurrent. Gradually rise, until it crosses the clouds on the mountainside, it maintains a level height. If someone with a heart could look at the quilt of the flying bird at this time, they would find that there was actually a woman in a black robe with red clouds half squatting on the bird's back, and the face of the woman on the bird's back was pierced. The black iron rod with the thickness of the little finger at the root of the tree, if it weren't for the animal Dao in pain, who would it be? After a while, Dao Pain's sight gradually widened, and the clouds and mists did not want to be as thick as before in the canyon. The mountains and mountains inside the canyon that they crossed were a large open space that seemed to be artificially developed. On the steps behind the open space, there was a building similar to a temple, which was the residence of Rabbi Yutai. And when the beast Dao Pain's bird was flying here, Kurabi, who was above the square, also noticed something strange above. Come on, my rap is really getting better and better, even Layan Gap can't stop the audience, oye. Kurabi still pointed at the birds in the air with his index fingers with both hands, playing with rhythm and interest. The goal is to confirm, Rabbi of the 8-tailed pillar. Dao Pain, the beast on the bird's back, said expressionlessly, thinking who he was reporting to, and thinking to himself, and then he jumped straight from the bird's back into the air. At the same time, the animal's hands quickly formed a seal, the art of psychic. Bang 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 bang. With the sound of Wu's crisp sound, 5 Pains, also wearing black bottoms and red robes, appeared one after another on the psychic formation extending from the palm of the animal Dao. 6 Pains gathered, lined up in the air and slowly landed. Plus the stern faces of the 6 people, looking at their momentum, they seem to represent the gods who enforce the law. You are the 8-tailed person Zuli. After Lu Dao appeared, Tiandao Pain asked indifferently, looking at the opposite 8-tailed. No, it should be Lord Yahweh, right, that's right. It's Lord Renjuli, right. That's right. Lu Dao Pain's gorgeous appearance did not seem to shock Kurabi at all. As a 10-year-old promoted to Chunin, for him, who became Jonin at the age of 12, and who perfectly integrates with the 8 tails, it seems that the scene in front of him is just one more opportunity to accumulate rap material. It's exactly the same as what the intelligence reported. It seems that it is indeed the target of our trip, the 8 tails. Come on. After confirming, Tiandao Pain didn't have time to spend more time with the unspoken Kurabi. Directly issued an attack order. The next moment, a bald man rushed out of the 6 people, and stopped at the position directly in front of the other 5 people. When he raised his hand, he saw that the big man's arm randomly separated several tracking rockets about 10 inches long. With the fire from the rocket's tail, the strong reaction force made the rocket that was released go straight to Kurabi's direction, which looked amazing. Chapter 268, Hunting 8 Tails 2. As soon as Tiandao's voice fell, a bald man rushed out of the 6 people, and stopped at the position directly in front of the other 5 people. When he raised his hand, he saw that the big man's arm randomly separated several tracking rockets about 10 inches long, and then without the fire from the roots of the rocket, the strong reaction force made the rocket that was released go straight to Kurabi's direction, which looked amazing. I dared to take action in front of this uncle with such small tricks. Bagaya Road, Kahaya Road. Although Kurabi behaves strangely and doesn't seem so reliable, he is not mentally retarded. If the 6 people in front of him have no means naturally, I couldn't find the depths of the Layan Gorge. I saw that vigilance also quietly rose in the rap, and while speaking, Kurabi directly turned to the side with his instinctive reaction and good skills, making the number of the rocket almost passed by. I said it was just a little trick, didn't I? Right. However, before Chirabi could finish his rap, he heard the whistling sound from behind quickly approaching him. Several rockets were turning their heads and chasing after him at the moment. In a hurry, he had to raise his hand and pull out a sword. The tail beast coat instantly covered his right arm, slashing several knives in a row, and suddenly smoke was everywhere, and several rockets fell on the ground. Under the blade, the arm wrapped by the tail beast's coat naturally received no damage. It's a really good sword technique. Kurabi just turned around to blow away the gunpowder smoke, when suddenly a guy with 3 heads and 6 faces came into his field of vision, and then he felt his throat tighten, and an arm grabbed his neck. Immediately unable to move, at this moment, the waist of this 3-faced, 6-armed monster, with a plaque-shaped long blade like a scorpion tail, just wanted to think of the black light under the scorching sun directly to Kurabi's neck. Do you want to capture this uncle? Who do you think you are facing? As Kurabi spoke, the tailed beast coat that had just been removed on his right hand reappeared. The rabbi's entire arm turned into an arm similar to that of a beast. He did not dodge the long blade that was cut, and he directly opened his palm and grabbed the long blade in his hand. Dang! Only a crisp sound was heard, and the seemingly tough long blade was directly broken into 2 by Kurabi, and then he stabbed the half-iron blade in his hand towards the chest of the monster in front of him. Due to the close distance, it was another close fight. Even Pain in the form of Asura couldn't dodge, and the serrated blade sank deep into his chest. From an ordinary person's point of view, if he caused such damage, he would definitely die. However, the guy in front of him grabbed Chi. The hand on the rabbi's neck is indeed undiminished in strength. Who the hell is this guy? Not only did he not feel pain from such a deep wound, but his expression didn't change at all. Could it be that this guy is unconscious? The 6 people in front of them are definitely different from ordinary people, and they all reveal strangeness, but they are not so easy to deal with. If that's the case, what will happen then? Saying that, Kurabi smashed his partially tailed beast-turned fist directly at Pain's face in the form of Asura. Bang! With a muffled sound, Kurabi only felt his neck loosen, and the strange man with a big wound in his chest disappeared out of thin air. As the power of the 8 tails. Ha ha, that's what makes it interesting. Kurabi looked in the direction of the voice, and saw that the guy just now was obviously standing beside the woman who just got off the bird's back, and at this time, the woman still maintained a posture of supporting the ground with one hand. This is a reverse psychic technique. While Kurabi was guessing, another voice sounded in his mind. These 6 guys on the opposite side are not so easy to deal with. I know from these guys I felt a dangerous aura on my body, and the 6 of them actually have a pair of reincarnation eyes. It's unbelievable. Naturally speaking, it was the 8-tailed bull ghost hidden in Kurabi's body. The Eye of Reincarnation. Those are the eyes of the legendary 6-path immortals. Do you think it is takoyaki? Can 6 guys with reincarnation eyes appear at the same time? Don't say you don't believe it. Even me, it would be incredible. It's just that these eyes give me the feeling that there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's definitely the reincarnation eye, but don't be careless. Although the 8 tails were surprised, but he is very certain about the authenticity of the Eye of Reincarnation. Understood. After some exchanges, Kurabi's body slowly glowed red, and a seemingly weak-tailed beast coat covered him from head to toe, changing his usual funny posture. It also brought up a bit of rare focus. Facing Kurabi's change, Pain didn't seem to take it seriously, didn't care at all, and said indifferently, "It seems that the 8 tails in your body told you something, but in front of God, all behaviors are just vain knowledge." Quote. What an arrogant idiot. If that's the case, let's taste the fist of this uncle. Idiot, bastard. Kurabi, who has been transformed into a beast, has increased his momentum, whether it is speed or strength. For a long time, as soon as the voice fell, he made a bold move. I saw Kurabi's place, and after a gust of sand was raised without warning, Kurabi's figure gradually faded and disappeared in place. It turned out that the speed was too fast, so the afterimage was left behind. Boom. Just listening to a loud bang, I saw the Shira Road in the 6 paths of pain, that is, the bald man who was good at using organs was bombarded to the ground by Kurabi, his whole body was twisted, and even scattered on the ground. The parts seemed to have been scrapped. Tiandao Pain abolished the Shira Road in 1 round when he saw Kurabi. Although there was no expression on his face, he was also a little surprised in his heart, and he couldn't help but secretly said, "It's so fast, and the strength has also improved. There are many, to be able to turn into a tail beast so skillfully, it is indeed the most perfect human pillar power." Although it was caused by Pain underestimating the enemy and Kurabi's sudden attack, Kurabi did destroy a Pain with 1 move, which also surprised Pain. Chapter 269, Battle of Layan Gorge. After smashing Shira Road with a punch, Kurabi raised his right arm and made a move similar to a victory cheer. Oye tilde already killed 1. Let Lord Kurabi beat you all down, bastard, idiot. The rest of Pain watched all this calmly, looking so indifferent. The art of psychic. Just as Kurabi cheered, the beast Dao Pain had already moved, and he raised his palm and slammed it on the ground, performing a psychic technique. Boom! A cloud of smoke appeared out of nowhere, and then there was a roar from the ground. It seemed that there was a behemoth running. After Chirabi felt the vibration of the ground, he also stopped cheering and locked his attention on the group. In smoke. In a breath of time, I saw a very large rhino with reincarnation eyes breaking through the smoke, charging towards the tailed beast turned Kurabi with unstoppable power. Bang! In the face of the menacing giant rhino that was coming towards him with his head lowered, Kurabi was not afraid, his aura soared, and just when the hard rhino horn was about to smash into him, he made a bold move, relying on the tail of the beast's coat. Protected, his hands suddenly grabbed the rhino's long horn, and then with a roar, he actually resisted the rhino's momentum with brute force. After stopping the momentum of the rhino, Kurabi used his strength again, pulling up the huge rhino astonishingly, and then suddenly threw it into the sky. However, just after Kurabi threw the rhinoceros, the animal Dao's offensive was launched again, and the animal Dao once again used the psychic technique, but this time the psychic beasts were no longer rhinos, but several weird and vicious dogs with wings are attacking from 4 directions at the same time. Although the size of these vicious dogs is obviously much smaller than that of giant rhinos, their speed and dexterity are not comparable to those of giant rhinos, and looking at their interlaced fangs, one knows that these vicious dogs are definitely not easy to mess with. Do you think that you can win the uncle if you have more numbers? It's too small, you idiot, you bastard. Facing the culling of the vicious dog, Kurabi was not panicked, and was still the same rap style. When the dog was approaching, he suddenly waved the blade in his hand and jumped into the air. The whirling figure stirred up the endless wind and sand. The cold light suddenly appeared, and the knife had been fired several times in a short moment, and it was only in one face. All the 4 vicious dogs that came from the attack have been beheaded, and the bodies have all been chopped into 2 pieces and scattered on the ground. Oye tilde it's easy to get it done, this uncle is the strongest, you idiot, bastard. After cutting down the 4 vicious dogs, Kurabi twisted his body again and danced in a very strange way, humming. However, at this moment, another mutation occurred. I saw that the vicious dog that had been cut in 2 by Kurabi unexpectedly split into 2 like earthworms. At this moment, it came back to life, and the number has changed from 4 to 8, and he is surrounding Kurabi in the middle, baring his teeth and staring at Kurabi. Huh, it's really not that easy to deal with. Hey little 8. What are these things? Although Kurabi wants to deal with some vicious dogs, it is not difficult, but he always feels that these are just consuming his chakra. The woman in front of me has been using psychic techniques. If I guess correctly, the 6 guys with reincarnation eyes in front of me should each have their own unique abilities. The first to fight with us is closer to physical techniques and body modification. And the woman in front of her has been using psychics so far, but this guy can summon so many powerful psychic beasts at the same time, which is incredible. It seems that if the woman is eliminated, these evil dogs will keep splitting. It's gone. When Kurabi asked, the 8-tailed bull ghost in his body was also secretly frightened. It's coming, Little 8. While speaking, Kurabi drew a knife from his back again, holding a sword on the left and right, and quickly approached the beast. Little girl, if you want to fight against this uncle, Guangyi relies on these psychics. Beasts are not enough. The vicious dog that has been divided into 8 hesitantly came from hell, without any emotion. No matter how fierce Kurabi's sword and sword energy was, the vicious dog was still full of malice, grinning at Kurabi. Past. You sons of a bitch, this uncle's goal is not you. Facing the vicious dog, Kurabi's footsteps toward the beast didn't stop at all, only to see Kurabi's lower back position. Suddenly he stretched out the tentacles of 8 octopuses, and directly wrapped all the vicious dogs that rushed towards him. Little girl, I will send you to meet the bald man just now. Chirabi immediately tightened the dagger in his hand, and 2 strands of chakra actually wrapped the dagger along his arms. Chirabi's body was not only wrapped in the tailed beast coat just now, but also the chakra of the thunder attribute at this moment. Covering all of them, Chirabi's speed increased several times. Feel the enthusiasm of Uncle Octopus, lay plow hot knife. Seeing that the beast Dao Pain, who was close at hand, was about to die tragically under the sharp blade, the other party did not dodge. Spirituality. As soon as the voice fell, the seal was still completed, and he slapped the ground with his backhand, and instantly a bloated stone was formed. The wayward doll jumped out from the psychic circle, blocking it between the two, and the full force of the Kurabi-tailed beast's coat fell on it, but it was difficult to save it. Nani. Bye. Be careful of the side. Before Kurabi had time to marvel, there was an urgent reminder from Niugui. Chirabi looked back, but saw that the back of his foot had completely obscured his sight, and he was sweeping towards his face with fierce wind pressure. In order to disintegrate, it was difficult to stop the momentum for a while, so he had to use the octopus that grew out of his waist to resist a little. Bang! Only a muffled sound was heard, but Kurabi was bounced out under another Pain's leg sweep. Before Chirabi could stand firm, he only felt his shoulders tighten for a while, and when he focused, he found that he had been locked tightly from behind by a big man, and the chakra inside started to drain quickly inadvertently. Chapter 270. Fierce Battle Lei Gorge. Aware of his strangeness, Kurabi was shocked, and seemed to want to struggle to break free, but it was in vain, and Pain behind him had already trapped him like a shackle. Bye, hurry up and leave, this guy can actually absorb my chakra. If you continue like this, you will be exhausted. The 8 tails in Kurabi also felt the threat from this Pain and hurriedly reminded. I know that too, but this guy is just like an octopus haunting me, so I can't get rid of it. What an idiot, bastard. Chirabi said angrily. Even in such a dangerous situation, Chirabi's tone was still that weird tone of voice. It seems that no matter what happens, it can't be changed. How about it? Do you want to try that trick? Then. Okay. But my chakra was drained before the fight. Give me your chakra points, oye. Humph. Without my assistance, you would have been killed long ago. Arrogant statement, but for your assistance, I am still grateful. One person and one beast communicated instantly in Kurabi's mind. At the same time, Kurabi's arms were crossed in front of his chest, and his fingers made a peculiar knot. At this moment, Kurabi's whole body began to swell. A burst of lava-like bubbles came out, and the 8 tails behind them moved forward together, wrapping Kurabi inside like a cocoon. The next moment, with a muffled sound, Kurabi himself, who could still be seen before. It has completely disappeared, replaced by a monster with 8 tails, where there is still half a humanoid. As the tailed beast transformed. No, it turned out to be the power of the tailed beast imprinted in the human form, and the chakra, who controls such a madness, can still maintain normal sanity. It really deserves to be the perfect human pillar. Just in pains during the amazement, Kurabi, who showed the second form, continued to change. On top of the crimson and violent chakra coat, bones grew. After a while, strong skulls, sharp skulls, and smooth bones were formed. The spine below the skull is all grown. From a distance, it looks like a half cow and half fox. Yeah, do you still want to trap me? Let's try the charm of the second form of Lord Yahweh. After speaking, Kurabi touched the ground with his right foot, and the whole person jumped out of the ground, and took advantage of the trend to grow new growth. The bull's head skeleton was shifted to the upper right, and he raised his fist and rushed to Lu Dao Pain in an instant, locking on the beast Dao Pain. In fact, when Kurabi just activated the second form, the hungry ghost who was entangled in Kurabi had already returned to the other four because he couldn't resist the violent chakra. It's so fast. Kurabi in the second form was actually a little faster than when he was in the tailed beast coat just now, so that Pen, who is now playing with 6 people at the same time, can't keep up with Kira in speed. Then the footsteps. Shen Luo Tianzheng, seeing that the situation was not right, Pain counted several people and immediately changed the formation. With the assistance of the rest of the people, Pain, the beast, was behind Tiandao within a few steps. Bang! Hearing a loud noise, Kurabi, who was still maintaining the momentum of rushing to thunder, flew out directly, without even touching the clothes of the beast. In Chengdu, it seems that other means have no effect on you. 8 tails. You can't be careless. In fact, in the previous fight, Pain can already confirm that Kurabi basically uses projection ninjutsu, even if the use of chakra is only used for blessing body techniques. The most used one is to use the 7 swords on the back and the thunder attribute chakra to realize the use of the Baron Heron cutting sword. In this case, the ability of the evil ghost will be difficult to display. Furthermore, Kurabi, who is now showing the second form, has completely surpassed the scope of ordinary taijutsu in terms of strength and speed. Since it can be strong enough to even the Shira in the form of Asura. Dao was killed in seconds, and naturally no one said that the power of Samsara Eye was wasted on him too much. Damn, that guy is a ghost after all, and the full blow of this uncle's second form was bounced back without a fight, That's. Waiting just stood up, but saw the stunned man. A scene, that guy with 3 faces and 6 arms should have been killed by me just now. How can he stand there unharmed, like nothing, although it is not a threat to the second form of this uncle, but also it's so wicked, asshole. On the opposite side, Pain naturally had no interest in considering Chirabi's thoughts. He saw the animal road again and then patted the ground with his hands. Immediately, the big bird that carried the animal road into Layan Gorge appeared in front of everyone again, and then the animal road he jumped straight onto the bird's back and left the Layan Gorge square. At this time, only Tiandao Pain was fighting against Kurabi in the second form. Except for the beast road who had left Layan Gorge, the other 4 Pain present seemed to be watching the battle and no longer interfered in the struggle between the two. Damn, what kind of technique is this? Every time he prepares a hard blow, he will be bounced off. It hurts, little 8. How should this guy deal with it? It was very annoyed that he was bounced off by Tiandao's, Shen Luo Tianzheng. I have only heard about the Eye of Samsara. Although the 9 big-tailed beasts in the ninja world are now separated from the 10-tailed immortals from the legendary 6 paths, I also know very little about the ability of the Eye of Samsara, compared. The bull ghost just responded to Kurabi with a little embarrassment. Bastard. Confused, Kira in the second form was so annoyed that her face looked a little hideous for a while, and then she opened her mouth, and several rays of light condensed by high-density chakra shot out directly from her mouth, heading straight for the heavens. The direction in which it is located. However, facing Tiandao face to face, he did not dodge or dodge. He squatted directly on the ground, stretched out his hands, and suddenly a light curtain invisible to the naked eye quickly extended along the position of Tiandao's palm to protect most of Tiandao's upper body. Puff puff. After a while, after only hearing a few muffled sounds like gravel falling into water, it didn't even affect the heaven under the light curtain in the slightest. Is it only this level? Perfect Manzuli, but that's it. He got up and looked at Kurabi, although there was no expression on his face, but in the words, one of the contempt was not hidden. Just as Tiandao was talking, only 4 sounds of bang bang were heard, and the other 4 pains standing behind Tiandao disappeared one by one from Chirabi's sight. Chapter 271, Super. God Luo Tianzheng. What Kurabi didn't know was that in a valley not far from Layan Gorge, there were 2 women wearing red cloud robes on a black background, and the 4 pen who had just disappeared. also appeared next to the two women in turn. Nagato, why only keep Heavenly Tao in Layan Gorge? Do you want to use that technique? One of the women in a black robe with red clouds looked at the other and asked. The person who asked the question came with Nagato. This is the small south of Layan Gorge. The opponent is Yahweh. If you are soft-hearted, you will not be able to achieve the goal of this trip. The other woman is naturally the beast Dao Pain, but because Xiao Nan is the closest person to Nagato today, he naturally understands pain and the connection between Nagato. Absolutely not. Which technique you use will shorten your lifespan. Xiao Nan was obviously anxious and worried as he spoke, but Dao Pain, the beast standing beside him, didn't seem to hear him at all, just when Xiao Nan's voice just fell. Falling down, not only the beast, but the other four pain present also fell one after another. Using the power of 6 people. Do you have to do this anyway? Nagato. Seeing that persuasion was useless, Xiao Nan turned to look in the direction of Layan Gorge's Heavenly Tao, as if he was talking to someone, but also like talking to himself. Layan Gorge, 8-Tail Residence. The guy with the eyes of reincarnation. Who are you? Why do you bother my uncle to create rap, bastard, idiot? Since Tiandao's shot, Kurabi, who has been in a passive state, is now a little angry, and he always feels all over his body. Strength. In the face of this indifferent guy in front of me, I just can't use it. No matter what means I use, it will be resolved by the strange ability of the other party. The body, how can he not be suffocated? HMPH, how can a flower that is cared for in a greenhouse really understand the pain in the world? Tiandao Pain ignored Kurabi's question, but just said something to himself that made Kurabi feel out of bounds. Looks like it's almost there. After Pain completed the energy control, Tiandao Pain, who was in the square where Leungxia Yahweh residence was located, had a certain look, and began to slightly open his arms, as if he wanted to hug something, but what he felt from his reincarnation eyes was actually there was only a bitter chill. Tiandao Pain slowly stood on tiptoe. No. To be exact, it should be as if he was out of the gravity of the center of the earth at this moment, and as time went by, his feet gradually became off the ground, and he stood directly in the air. The black bottom red cloud robe is windless automatically. What the hell is this guy doing? Facing Tiandao Pain's diametrically opposite battle state, Kurabi was a little confused for a while, but felt that compared to the previous fierce attack and defense of both sides, the guy in front of him suddenly became like this. As calm as this, it made him feel even more uneasy, and although Tiandao Pain's behavior did not cause him any harm at this time, Kurabi could also feel the depressing atmosphere at this time. Although Pain's gradually rising body was slow, it also reached a relatively high position after a while, and he could basically overlook and compare to the group standing above the Yunlei Gorge River. Bye. Hurry up and get out of here. I think that guy will make a big noise. The bull ghost in Kurabi's body naturally saw Pain's unusual behavior and quickly reminded him. Kurabi didn't reply to Niugui immediately, but his face became solemn at this moment, and then he pressed his foot hard, and his entire body was instantly ejected, and began to spray away from Layan Gorge. The flowers hidden in the greenhouse, accept the pain, understand the pain. Those who don't really understand the pain will not understand the real peace. Starting from this Layan Gorge, let the land of thunder and the world feel the pain. Pain, who was talking, was expressionless, but a pair of indifferent and majestic reincarnation eyes were enough to make ordinary people feel terrified at first glance. At this moment, under the background of the scorching sun, he looked like a god, Shen Luo Tianzheng. After Tiandao Pain hesitantly spit out the name of the technique with a punitive tone from the superior, the position centered on Pain perpendicular to the ground suddenly collapsed, and a loud noise erupted. Boom. What followed was the position with the center point as the center of the circle. The scope of the collapse was expanding rapidly, and it was sweeping every inch of Layan Gorge in a carpet like water waves after falling rocks. It has not yet escaped from Layan Gorge Square. Kurabi, who was the first to bear the brunt, was directly involved in the shock waves that caught up. In the blink of an eye, the scope of the collapse had already encompassed the entire square. Even so, the entire collapsed surface was still expanding rapidly, extending to the steps, the eight-tailed residence of the steppe camera, and even after destroying the entire ground beneath his feet, it actually spread to the other mountain chutes in Layan Gorge. The slightly closer mountain tops collapsed almost at the moment of contact with the shock waves. Even the mountain chutes that were farther away were also collapsed by the strong vibration, and the entire Layan Gorge was like the end of the day. General scene. The peaks of Layan Gorge were attacked by a powerful and unknown force, and the peaks were razed to the ground in an instant, causing such a big movement. The destructive force formed by the Shen Luo Tianzheng and the movement caused by dozens of miles away can clearly see that nature cannot hide Union Village. At this time, somewhere not far from Layan Gorge, two ninjas from Union Village were staring blankly at the direction of Layan Gorge, but they did not reflect it for a while, because the changes that happened in Layan Gorge were truly shocking. Has far exceeded their cognition, and the mind is blank, as if the brain has stopped working. After a few breaths, the two gradually regained their thoughts, and the expressions on their faces changed from sluggishness to panic. One of the Yunren said with a stutter, then, "That direction, could it be Layan Gorge? Kurabi is practicing in Layan Gorge. What happened there? Let's go and have a look." The other Yunren was obviously more stable. After the initial surprise, he quickly regained his ninja mentality. After greeting his companions, he set off first and headed in the direction of Layan Gorge. Run away. Chapter 272, Angels Leading to Death. At this time, the Layan Gorge was filled with smoke, and the surrounding peaks had already been lifted up and turned into a bare piece. The gravel could be seen everywhere, and it was a mess. After releasing the Shenluo Tianzheng, Tiandao Pain looked down blankly, looking for Kurabi's whereabouts, and finally slowly landed from the air to the ground, just gathered all Pain's chakra and sent out a super large Shenluo Tianzheng consumes a lot, and it is still a bit overwhelming for his body, but Nagato is a clan of the Vortex clan, and chakra is different from ordinary people, but it has recovered in a short time. The power of Super God Luo Tianzheng is really amazing. Even if Kurabi entered a state of complete tailbeastization in a hurry, he could not resist it. After bearing the Super God Luo Tianzheng of Tiandao Pain, Kurabi was obviously severely traumatized. Even one of the tentacles was broken. At this time, he was lying motionless on the ground. He seemed to have lost consciousness. Naturally, the state of tailed beast could not be maintained, and finally changed back to Kurabi's original appearance, and the man looked embarrassed. Pain looked blankly at the loss of consciousness, slumped to the ground like a muddy Kurabi, and said indifferently, "Yahweh, the capture is successful." At this time, Xiaonan was flying from a distance and landed beside Tiandao Pain, glanced at Kurabi on the ground indifferently, and then said to Pain, "The eight-tailed Manzuli has been captured successfully, and we should go too. Now." "Yeah," Pain replied, and after carrying the unconscious Kurabi, the two slowly lifted off from the ground, then flew into the distance and left Layan Gorge. And all of this was seen by two people on a distant mountain peak. These two people were Yunren who had rushed over after discovering the sudden change in Layan Gorge. After rushing to Layan Gorge, the two did not show up rashly, but first hid in the distance, and then used binoculars to observe the situation of Layan Gorge, just to see the unconscious Kurabi being carried by Pain. "That scene," one of the Yunren said in disbelief. "I didn't expect Lord Kurabi to be knocked down, how is this possible?" Another young Yunren saw Pain and Xiaonan ascending into the sky and seemed to be leaving, so he quickly asked, "Senior, they are leaving, are we going to rescue Lord Kurabi?" The older Yunren seemed more stable. He had noticed the special uniforms that Pain and Xiaonan were wearing, and said solemnly, "That kind of dress. The other party is Akatsuki's member, so we must not take it lightly, compared to our reckless rush. Going out and fighting to the death, it would be wiser to report to Raikage-sama immediately. Lord Raikage is currently holding a meeting of the Five Shadows in the Iron Country. If he is told that his brother has been taken away, he will not sit idly by." Seeing that Pain was carrying Kurabi away from Layan Gorge, the older Yunren knew he couldn't wait any longer, so he quickly told the young Yunren, "Don't worry about it so much, they left, you rush back to the village first, and report the news to Reikage-sama by sending emergency information, and I will follow them and confirm their location. I see. The young Yunren also knew that things were too serious, so without any hesitation, he turned around and fled in the direction of the village. The remaining Yunren also immediately set off, facing Pain's departure direction, chasing up. Fortunately, Pain, who performed a super divine Luo Tianzheng, has not fully recovered, so the flight speed is not fast, and that Yunren can't catch up. It's just that in a place that no one noticed, there is an octopus tentacle that should have been broken by Kurabi while he was hurriedly transforming his tail to resist the Shinra Heavenly Expedition. Far away. Although the Yunren was not bad, he still underestimated the ability of Pain and Xiaonan. Just when the Yunren just caught up with Pain, Xiaonan and Pain had already noticed that they were following him. After the strength of the person, the two didn't even lift their eyelids, obviously they didn't pay attention to it at all. A mouse is following, I'll deal with it, Xiaonan said indifferently to Pain, and then the whole person turned into pieces of paper and scattered. And that Yunren obviously noticed Xiaonan's actions, he was shocked and stopped. Although he didn't know what Xiaonan's actions meant, his ninja instincts over the years made him feel a dangerous breath. Damn, has it been discovered? Akatsuki's people are not that easy to deal with. At this time, he was enveloped by an invisible pressure. He took out a kunai from his ninja bag and looked around vigilantly. Cold sweat was already breaking out on his face, but he didn't dare to wipe it at all. Are you looking for me? Just when Yunren was alert to the surroundings, an extremely indifferent voice suddenly sounded behind him, which made him secretly startled. The ninja's instinct made him react. He slashed behind him, but his attack was in vain. When he looked behind him, he was horrified to find that there was no one behind him at all, only a few pieces of white paper fluttering in the air. Blank paper. Not good. The Yunren recalled the situation where Xiaonan turned into a blank sheet of paper, and obviously felt bad, but it was too late. Before he could do anything, he saw countless sheets of blank paper. It was flying towards him from all directions, 1, 2. In the end, countless pieces of paper were stuck to his body, wrapping him tightly, and many of them were mixed with detonating symbols. The name Yunren was horrified to discover that he was extremely fragile and could tear a large amount of paper at any time on weekdays, but now it has become his life reminder, wrapped in countless papers, and has lost his ability to move. The moment before his sight, he saw countless sheets of paper gathered together, and finally turned into a woman with an incomparably cold expression, and her eyes without any emotion, and the wings composed of countless sheets of paper, under the sunshine, looked like incomparably holy. As this, an angel. That Yunren's last sight was fixed on this scene, and there was only one thought left in his consciousness. It's God's order, I'll send you on your way. The indifferent voice sounded again, and as soon as the voice fell, a roar sounded, startling countless birds. Chapter 273. Shocking news during the meeting. The news of what happened in Lei Yin Gorge has not yet reached Lei Ying's ears. Lei Ying, who is far away in the country of iron, does not know at this time that his younger brother has fallen into the hands of the Shao organization, and is now in talks with him. The other three shadows are discussing. Enemy attack. General, 3 ships. Someone has invaded the clubhouse. And just when the shadows were arguing, a samurai broke into the clubhouse in a panic, interrupting the meeting. As the 3 ships had repeatedly warned before, this meeting was of great importance, and all the participants were from the major. If the ninja village's shadow-level mission is not an urgent matter, no samurai in the Land of Fire is allowed to break into the conference room arbitrarily. Even so, this samurai still came to report. Then it must have encountered an intractable situation, and then watch. The samurai was clearly frightened, and Mifune immediately understood the seriousness of the gaffe. The impatient Reikage suddenly stood up from his seat and shouted at the samurai who rushed in, "What the hell is going on? Who dares to invade here?" The current Reikage is like a powder keg. From the beginning of the meeting, he was holding his stomach full of anger, but it didn't happen for a while. Now I hear that someone has come here to make trouble. You must know that this time the 5 he was the initiator of the shadow talk, which was undoubtedly hitting him in the face. This news was like a fuse, instantly detonating the suffocating Reikage. The samurai subconsciously glanced at the representative of Konoha, where Kakashi was, and said, "Yes. It's Konoha's rebellion, you. Uchiha. Nani?" Before the samurai could finish his words, but after hearing the 3 words Uchiha, Reikage instantly burst into a strong and terrifying momentum, and let out a roar of extreme anger. Uchiha! Uchiha! Reikage slammed his fist on the conference table again, suddenly turning to Kakashi's position. "If it wasn't for your Konoha's mistake, how could this cancer of the ninja world appear, A self the ninja village, who can't handle the family affairs well, has no face to pretend to be a big country." Every time he recalled the tragic history of Uchiha Chen's reckless actions in Union Village, Reikage gritted his teeth with hatred, eager to smash the remnants of Uchiha to ashes. After learning that the intruder was Uchiha, Reikage's perception guard immediately sensed and confirmed the enemy's location. Because Sasuke did not hide his chakra, he was quickly found. The perception ninja named Nishi said to Reikage, "Lord Reikage, I have found it. It's just right, I'll settle the old and new hatred together today, Uchiha Chen. I will definitely repay the pain you inflicted on our Union Village, let's go." The other 3 shadows and the general of the Iron Country, Mifune, rushed out of the meeting place with 2 of his guards. And everyone who stayed in the conference room at this time were all old fried dough sticks who had experienced a lot of wind and waves. Even Gaara, who became Kazekage at a young age, and his guards Tamari and Kankuro were very calm, but their eyes there was an undisguised solemnity in the middle. Even Kakashi was no exception. "Although I don't know the information about the intruder yet, but I learned the name Uchiha from the samurai who reported the letter. After all, the deeds of Uchiha Chen circulated in the ninja world, he naturally knew this person well. Horror, the Uchiha clan in the current ninja world has already been exterminated. It is known that there are only 3 remaining Uchiha clansmen. One is Akatsuki's Uchiha Itachi, the other 2 are Uchiha Sasuke and the terrifying Uchiha Chen. No matter which one of these 3 people is not easy to mess with, the first 2 may be better, the last one is the most terrifying. The current Uchiha seems to have become the word of horror in the ninja world. Even if it is not known whether the intruder is the terrifying Uchiha Chen, Mifune did not dare to be slighted, and hurriedly charged at the 2 behind him. The guard ordered, "Okasuke, Uchikaku, immediately issue an order to search for the intruder, and at the same time, order to enter the second battle situation, and urgently dispatch 3 teams to build a defense line at the entrance of the venue." Yes. The 2 guards took orders at the same time, then exited the conference room and went to issue orders first. After Raing left the conference room, Tuiying looked at Raing's leaving figure, and said old-fashioned, "What a grumpy guy. I didn't expect that the bad boy of the year would not be able to change his temper even if he became a shadow." Compared to Tuiying's disapproval, Kakashi's face was extremely solemn. After learning that the intruder was Uchiha, the first thing he thought of was Uchiha Chen. He had personally experienced the horror of this person. Is far from the kind of hearsay that can describe it, so naturally he is not as indifferent as Tuiying. If the other party is really Uchiha Chen, that's too bad. This guy is too terrifying. If you are alone, Reikage-sama may not be able to deal with this person. We must go to support Reikage. It was to leave to support Reikage. Young people are really frizzy. Even the old man doesn't dare to say that Lei Ying's strength is to push him. He will go out in person. Why should you go to the ninja to blend in, haha? It's ridiculous. He sneered with his bloated nose up. Lord Tuiying, if you don't know Uchiha Chen, please don't define it indiscriminately. Although age and knowledge are positively related, they are not absolute. It is not the information we have that you will understand, Uchiha Chen. The power of the so-called shadow level has far exceeded the so-called shadow level, so if the person who comes is really his, even if it is Reikage, I am afraid it will be difficult to survive. Gaara looked back at Kakashi after repelling the shadow. I am willing to go with you to help Reikage. Bastard. What an arrogant guy. With Kakashi and Gaara leaving, there was only Tsuchikage on the conference table of Noah, and his complaints echoed in the conference room. Chapter 274, Dark Eyes. Outside the venue of the Five Shadows Conference, Sasuke is like a life-threatening ghost from hell. Almost no opponents he meets are his enemies. These warriors wearing heavy armor and masks, although there are many, but Sasuke's strength is really too weak, not even a slap in the face, and Sasuke, who has shadow-level strength, against such a samurai, is tantamount to wolves entering the flock, killing them up, making those samurai feel terrified. However, at the same time that Sasuke was ravaging the warriors of the Iron Country, in a hidden dark place in the venue, there was a sharp-eyed falcon-like eye staring sharply at everything. I saw this person who was peeping at Sasuke in the dark, wearing a red cloud robe with a black background and a spiral mask. In the ninja world, he would be the only one in this dress, that is the behind-the-scenes manipulator of the Akatsuki organization, Uchiha Obito. Now Obito appears here at this time. Obviously he has a plan. After watching Sasuke for a while, he said with great interest, "Uchiha Sasuke, although not as good as Uchiha Chen, his strength is also not to be underestimated." Quote. That's right, it's Itachi's younger brother anyway, so his strength is definitely not too bad. Just as Obito sighed Sasuke with emotion, a hoarse voice also sounded behind Obito, as if responding to Obito's words. Obito was not surprised, as if he already knew who the owner of the voice was. He asked without looking back, "How is the situation over there?" Following Obito's questioning, the owner of the voice gradually revealed his figure, and he was the intelligence officer of Akatsuki's organization. Absolutely. Well, it went well. After all, it was Pain who shot it himself, and now the eight-tailed Manzuli has been captured successfully. Really, that's good. I'm more at ease about Nagato's ability. After getting the answer he wanted, he immediately showed an expression of, as expected, under the cover of the mask with soil threads. Since the eight-tailed Manzuli has been captured, what should we do with Uchiha Chen? The members of the Akatsuki organization seem to be accustomed to capturing tailed beasts, even the second-ranked eight-tailed beasts. Let them negotiate too much, but after confirming, they cut the topic to Uchiha Chen and the Eagle Squad on the side of the Iron Country. Hey, let them make trouble. We just need to wait and see what happens here. If we can use the hands of Uchiha Chen to weaken the combat power of the five countries, it will only be more beneficial to our plan. Obito just sneered, behaved confidently. It turns out that it is, as expected, it's still as sophisticated as ever. As Ju spoke, his body wriggled for a while, and he slowly disappeared from Obito's field of vision. After Ju's exit, Obito also appeared out of thin air. The illusory vortex disappeared in place. At the same time, in the long and narrow passages of the Iron Nation Council Hall, a young man in a white kimono and holding a long sword was engaged in a high-frequency battle with a group of samurai warriors. The pressure was only enough, but it failed to stop the young man's pace at all. Blood splashed all over the place for a while, and the sound of screams was endless, and the continuous mourning filled every walk of the council. Bastard! You know that this is the important place of the Iron Nation. At the moment, there are shadow-level characters from the 5 major countries. If you insist on making trouble here, you will definitely be called back and forth. Among the warriors, suddenly, a man in brown armor appeared. Judging from his equipment that was different from other samurai, he should be the first leader of the group of samurai. Oh, the shadows of the 5 major countries. It should be said to be the 4 shadows. Forget it, it's just a waste of words to tell you more. I saw the young man's right hand shake, and suddenly a thunder attribute chakra ran directly along the young man's arm, passing it on top of the long sword. Then the soles of his feet suddenly pointed to the ground, and the robed young man shot out in an instant, landed in front of the man in brown armor, raised his hand and slashed down with a sword. The speed at which the young man came suddenly surprised the leading samurai, but being the leader of the escort team at such an important meeting in the Kingdom of Iron, where only samurai warriors were, was naturally not a display that had never seen blood. Immediately, he hurriedly grasped the hilt of the sword with both hands, and raised his arms to block the falling blade. However, What made the famous little leader desperate was that at the moment when the blade of the young man in kimono collided with his blade, there was no sound. Ignoring the obstruction of his weapon, he penetrated in an instant, and the blade landed directly on his left shoulder. It was said that when the leader felt the pain, he already felt that his vision began to blur. After a while, when his vision turned around, he saw a body also wearing brown armor like himself, but wearing a brown. The armored warrior, horribly, lost his upper body with a headband and a hand. Just when the leader noticed that this incomplete body seemed familiar, he closed his eyes and lost consciousness. Under the shock of Sasuke's bizarre sword, it seemed that the warriors who came to stop them also stopped their previous madness. While looking left and right, no one was willing to make the first test. Since these cannon fodder warriors didn't take the initiative to harass them, Sasuke didn't bother to chase after them to kill each other, so he still wore that indifferent expression as he shuttled between the long and narrow aisles. As if seeing a beast, he consciously spread out left and right to make way for a passage. Just after Sasuke walked out of the long and narrow passage and came to a rectangular open space with dozens of lengths and widths, he suddenly felt an extremely powerful chakra fluctuation, which made Sasuke frown, but only heard the sound from the left. A loud bang. Boom. Sasuke glanced sideways, and saw that the wall in the front left direction was instantly broken by a huge hole with a radius of 2 or 3 meters under the impact of the giant force. There was a roar like, killing the father. Uchiha Chen. What Yuri did in Union Village, the old man will make you double it today. Chi, could it be that in your eyes, my Uchiha family is only Uchiha Chen? Reikage. After feeling the strong chakra temperament in the dust, the young man could immediately conclude that it must be Reikage. It's true, and the robed youth who had just experienced a killing was naturally Sasuke Uchiha, who entered first. Chapter 275, Intertwined Thunder. At this time, Reikage completely ignored what Sasuke said. After seeing the face that made him burn with anger all this time, the humiliation that was put on him at the beginning suddenly turned upside down in his mind, and his reason had already been blinded by anger. Right now, he has only one thought, and that is to tear the person in front of him into pieces. Uchibo-chan, the shame you put on me in Union Village at the beginning, the old man wants you to pay back double today, go to hell. Reikage glared at Sasuke angrily, the momentum on his body skyrocketed again, and the body was wrapped in substantial thunder and lightning, and even his hair was erected because of the soaring momentum, and the terrifying thunder chakra attacked out, and even the ground was smashed. Unable to withstand Reikage's power, the ground under Reikage's feet shattered, and then Reikage burst into a loud shout and slammed towards Sasuke. Under the stimulation of Lei Dun, Reikage's speed reached the extreme, like a white thunder, flashed past, and hit Sasuke in the blink of an eye. So soon. Facing the power that Reikage radiated, Sasuke, who didn't care at all, also showed a shocked expression. Obviously, Reikage's power exceeded his imagination. However, before Sasuke could think about it, the speed of Reikage's display once again shocked him, and it had already attacked in the blink of an eye. Fortunately, Sasuke's strength has also improved by leaps and bounds over the years. Facing Reikage's tyrannical blow, Sasuke responded in time, and when Reikage punched, Susanoo was instantly condensed. Almost at the moment when Susa appeared, Reikage's fist smashed towards Sasuke, and finally just hit Susanoo's skeleton, and there was a thunder-like roar, accompanied by several crisp bones. Sasuke's voice was condensed by Sasuke. Susanoo, who is known as the strongest defense, actually cracked under Reikage's angry blow, but the ground under Sasuke's feet couldn't bear Reikage. The impact force caused it to burst open, forming a large pit, but fortunately, Susanoo was able to block Reikage's fist, which also made Sasuke and Susanoo breathe a sigh of relief. His face returned to the previous indifference. After seeing that his fist was blocked, Reikage was annoyed, especially when he saw the indifferent expression of Sasuke Suzan, as if he was looking down on himself. Reikage, who seemed to be humiliated, roared, "Bastard! Stop looking down on people." Under the blessing of anger, Reikage's strength has increased at this moment, and with a crisp sound, Raikage's fist actually penetrated Susa's defense in Sasuke's shocked eyes, and hit Sasuke heavily on the chest. Nani, you can even break through Susanoo's defense, Raikage. Is he a monster? Sasuke suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest, and the powerful impact made him fly upside down, until the thick wall was cracked before he could stop. As expected of Mr. Raikage, did he kill the enemy with just one blow? The samurai also raised his awe of Raikage's powerful strength while staring at him. Although Raikage's angry blow was very visual in front of the samurai, and at a speed that everyone's eyes could not catch, it instantly broke Susa's defense, but it was precisely because of Susa's resistance, Sasuke was not mortally wounded. Boy, let Lao Su teach you what the horror of anger is. Lei Ying said, his aura continued to rise, looking like an irrational beast, and instantly disappeared in place. The wounded Sasuke saw that the situation was not good, and immediately got up and started to capture the location of Raikage. He saw the pupils of his eyes spinning for a while. While searching left and right, his eyes suddenly condensed. Found it. Sasuke, who has already opened the kaleidoscope shaker, it is not very difficult to capture Raikage's figure. After Sasuke locked Raikage's position, he immediately found the pros and cons of the enemy that were beneficial to him with many battle experiences. Then I saw that Sasuke quickly put the grass pheasant sword in his hand into his waist, and then his right hand became a palm, his 5 fingers were stretched, and a thunder attribute chakra instantly condensed on his palm. Brilliance. Facing Raikage's astonishing aura, Sasuke didn't dodge, and even rushed forward. 2 amazing thunder attribute chakras were approaching quickly, and the intense rays of light intersected at the moment. The samurai who were wrapped in airtightness also turned their heads to avoid the dazzling light for a while. Chidori. Recurrent violence. When the 2 bright lights collided, it was surprising that there was no loud noise as expected, but a strange silence, and even a group of warriors who were watching the battle became silent under the influence of the atmosphere. In the stone space of Nuoda, at this time, only the sound of rustling arcs can be heard. After a while, after the light emitted by the thunder attribute chakra was a little weaker, the samurai looked around, and Sasuke avoided Raikage's heavy blow at a tricky angle, and Sasuke's right palm at this time. However, half of his fingers were sunk deep into Raikage's flank like sharp knives. How is that possible? Raikage-sama's thunder escape armor was pierced. Darui and Nishi, who followed Raikage to the Iron Country, couldn't keep up with Raikage's speed, and after a while of running only then did they hear the sound and rushed to the battle scene. When they first arrived, they saw these incredible scenes. Although the battle between Raikage and Sasuke is a long story, it was only a short while from Raikage's breaking the wall until the arrival of Darui. The thrusting attack that enhances the power and penetrating power of Thunderbolt, is it the same technique as Hatake Kakashi? To be able to wear the armor of Thunderbolt and touch my body, it's really an amazing technique. As he spoke, Raikage's arm was it has already landed on Sasuke's shoulders, it's just, who do you think I am? Lay done, lay I bomb. Quote ellipsis. Chapter 276, The Fury of the Sun. It is said that after Raikage's thunder escape armor was pierced by Sasuke with Reiki, the chakra of the whole body was not affected because of this. On the contrary, he grabbed Sasuke's shoulders with his backhand at 0 distance, and used an almost killing attack. The ninjutsu trick, Lei I Bomb. It was too late, Sasuke felt that his feet were light, and he was thrown up by Raikage, and then his waist was suddenly grabbed by Raikage, and then he was smashed by a huge force. Smashed to the ground. Bang! There was only a loud explosion like a blast, and the arcs around the 2 of them splashed around for a while, and the light emitted by the violent thunder attribute chakra seemed to be more dazzling than when the 2 had just fought. A circle of shock waves emanating from the place where Sasuke's back collided with the ground instantly covered a radius of more than 10 meters. Even the ground on which the 2 stood before was deeply sunk by the strong impact. The strong wind pressure emanating from it has already begun to make it difficult for the surrounding samurai to stand firm. The boss's ninja jutsu Thunder Eye Bomb, now Sasuke Uchiha is dead. Although Darui, Although he couldn't see the specific situation inside, but with his understanding of Reikage, he naturally understood what was inside. What happened, and he is even more confident in the power of the thunderbolt bombs of his boss Reikage's ninjutsu. However, the inside of the battle circle, which was obstructed by the violent arc, was not what they looked like. It was Reikage, one of the parties, who first noticed something was wrong. Reikage only vaguely heard the sound of broken bones, and then he focused on seeing that Sasuke was being wrapped in a skeleton at the moment. Susanoo's is a semi-complete body that has grown muscles, but he still shattered a small part of his bones under the impact of Reikage's lay bomb. It's this damn thing again, give me death. At this time, it was discovered that Sasuke was still alive under his proud ninjutsu. Reikage's angry flames were like doused with gasoline, and the burning was even more vigorous. Sasuke, who has experienced it before, does not dare to let Reikage's fist fall on him this time. After all, Sasuke is not confident enough to instantly turn Susanoo into a mature body, and Reikage's speed is extremely fast. Sasuke doesn't have to worry about his Reikage being able to break his defense, but if Susa's mature body is forcibly activated at this time, I am afraid that Susa has not yet grown muscles and will suffer from Reikage because of himself. Smashed and collapsed. So, I saw Sasuke turn sideways, and the whole person bounced up on the ground in an instant. After a sliding step, it was considered to have avoided Reikage's offensive temporarily. At this time, Susanoo, who was condensed by Sasuke's pupil power, had already begun to take shape. After standing up, he could see blood from Sasuke's left eye, which he had inadvertently benefited from, along his cheek. It landed directly on the gravel it added, and the sound of "DD" was very strange in this empty stone room. The brief confrontation also gave Sasuke a moment of respite. At this time, he no longer dared to be too big. After bearing Reikage's power, he already understood that the initial Susa was almost unable to resist Reikage's power. The crit hit, so he didn't hesitate anymore. Although his body had already become a little overwhelmed by the opening of the whiskers, his eyes were still fixed. I saw that Susanoo, who was only in the form of a skeleton, was growing muscles and meridians at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally put on a coat made of chakra. A longbow, and an arrow made of chakra. This is Sasuke's mature form, Susanoo. In the previous battle with Danzo, he was stimulated by Danzo's mention of Itachi's deeds. He evolved the original Susanoo into a mature form. The current form is better than the previous one. The skeleton is closer to human form. Susanoo's change surprised everyone present, only to see the two guards who followed Reikage, Darui and Nishi, looking at the mature Susanoo in surprise, only to hear that Darui said in surprise, "This Susanoo has turned into this state, it seems to have evolved, so it is even more difficult for the boss to kill Uchiha Chen, but the angry boss sure enough, it is the most terrifying, even Uchiha Chen was forced to this extent." And the perceptive ninja named Nishi didn't think so. While surprised, he thought of more information and said to his companions, "No. Darui, things don't seem to be so simple. This Uchibo Chen's current strength is obviously much weaker than when he was in Union before. I think he seriously injured Reing-sama and destroyed our village at the beginning. In the end, he was unscathed, but now he is in the attack of Reing-sama. Don't you think it's a little overwhelming?" After Zai's reminder, Darui also noticed this situation, recalling Uchiha Chen at the time of Union Village, and thinking about the previous battle. There was indeed a clear gap, and he couldn't help but doubtfully said, "It's true, this Uchiha's strength is really as you said, obviously a lot weaker. What the hell is going on?" What did you think of?" Nishi seemed to have guessed the reason, and said solemnly, "If my guess is correct, the person who is fighting Reikage-sama now is not Uchiha Chen himself." "What? Isn't it Uchiha Chen? Then how did he? Have you forgotten? Uchiha Chen also has a twin brother who looks alike. Sasuke Uchiha. So it is. No wonder this guy's strength is so weak." Because of Sasuke and Reikage's temporary truce, the place fell into a short-lived calm, and the content of the conversation between the two was also passed into the ears of Sasuke and Reikage in the field, so that Sasuke and Reikage who were holding each other. Shadow's face changed. After the fierce battle just now, Reikage's emotions were also under control. After learning that the person in front of him was not Uchiha Chen, he had such an expression on his face. From the time of the fight just now, he felt strange. This Uchiha, there is a clear gap between Chen and the Uchiha Chen he knew, but just now he was blinded by anger, so he didn't think much about it, and now he noticed the difference after hearing Zai's analysis. Shuga, Sasuke Uchiha, no wonder. Reikage also showed a relieved look after hearing about it. He also heard about Uchiha's other kid, but Uchiha Chen's reputation is too great. It also caused people from the outside world to think of Uchiha Chen first after hearing Uchiha, but Uchiha Sasuke, his brother Uchiha, was selectively ignored. You guy. Sasuke also saw Reikage's mood changes. Coupled with the previous remarks, it is not difficult to guess the reason. It was simply because he knew that he was not Uchiha Chen, so the aura of the real person dropped, compared to the previous one. When facing the enemy, Reikage at this moment obviously has the arrogance of killing chickens with a bull's knife. Reikage, who misjudged Uchiha and the two, had a strong contrast before and after learning the truth, which made Sasuke, who was originally arrogant, even more difficult. Except, Sasuke Uchiha has a strong sense of self-esteem since he was a child, although he had Chen Uchiha and Itachi by his side when he was young, two geniuses who were not inferior to him in terms of qualifications, especially Chen Uchiha, who seemed to have been in various fields since he was a child. In terms of ability, he is stronger than himself. Although he knows this fact, he has never verbally expressed that he is weaker than the other party. Instead, he has been working silently alone, trying to surpass Itachi and Chen. It's just that because Chen relies on his talent not to lose to himself, as well as his mysterious sense of being different from ordinary people, Sasuke, who has been chasing after him as his goal, is ultimately a lot weaker, no matter how hard he works in cultivation. Efforts seem to be difficult to surpass that guy Uchiha Chen. Now the humiliation that has accumulated in his heart for many years has been spoken out by the other party in such a gullible manner. In the original work, the reason why Sasuke defected to Konoha was that when Orochimaru was implementing the Konoha collapse plan, he learned that Naruto, who originally belonged to the tail of the crane, had unknowingly been in the fight with Gaara. Beyond him, especially after the battle on the roof of the hospital, this made Sasuke, who was so strong, uneasy, and then he chose to follow Orochimaru for strength. Although Naruto did not surpass Sasuke, Sasuke may still choose to follow Orochimaru in order to gain strength, but the battle on the roof of the hospital undoubtedly strengthened Sasuke's determination to defect. It can be seen from this incident that Uchiha Sasuke, the man's heart, is arrogant. Obviously he has worked harder than anyone else, but the distance from Chen is getting farther and farther. Although he doesn't show anything on the surface, in fact, his heart is extremely bitter. Sasuke already has a lot of resentment. My heart is full of unwillingness and anger. For a time, the chakra circulation around Sasuke's body became even colder, and Susanoo, who was transformed by his pupil power, also followed the changes of Sasuke's emotions, and a majestic armor actually rose from behind Susa slowly. From a distance, he finally put it on Suzuo's body. From a distance, he looked like Shira who came out of hell. At this moment, he was staring down at Reikage not far away with a pair of cold eyes. Following the original attack on Danzo in Konoha, Susanoo, who was stimulated by Danzo and evolved, is now under Reikage's contempt, and his self-esteem has been hit, which has affected Sasuke's mood, making Sasuke's Susanoo. Nangu actually has a further sublimation at this moment. Adding the Wudengu armor to the original foundation of Susanoo, the defense is greatly improved. This kind of Susanoo is powerful, but the consumption of chakra has also increased significantly, and it is extremely unstable. It is difficult for ordinary kaleidoscopes maintain this shape for a long time. Chapter 277. Strong Collision. Feeling the obvious change of Sasuke and the evil aura emanating from Susanoo, the expressions of Darui and Nishi who were watching the battle changed. I made a breakthrough at this time. Is it because of being despised, so I am so angry? The people of the Uchiha family are really not to be underestimated, this time is a bit bad. The icy coldness, Darui said with a solemn expression. Nishi next to Darui agreed with his words, nodded and said, Uchiha is too dangerous, and the kaleidoscope ability is far more than that. There is also the ability of Amaterasu, although I don't know if this Uchiha Sasuke has mastered it. This kind of ability, but since Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Chen have mastered this ability, it is not impossible for Uchiha Sasuke, their brother, to be burned by Uchiha Chen with Amaterasu before. Take an arm, pay attention, if something is wrong, support immediately. The remaining 2 people from Union Village who came to participate in the meeting at this time are not just as simple as the Raikage guards in this mission. As early as when the 4th generation Raikage was only a Raikage candidate, Iruka and Nishi also acted as Raikage's candidates. As a candidate for Raikage's bodyguard, he followed Raikage, and he was performing various tasks in the village in the form of a team, just like Raikage's left arm and right arm. For Nishi, whether it was Iruka or Raikage, he felt helpless. Putting aside personal abilities, after all, as a member of the Shadow Level squad, everyone's abilities are unquestionable, but Raikage's problem-solving style is always hard-hearted, while Iruka is lazy. He looked completely unconcerned, so the tactical arrangement of the entire squad and the burden of instant intelligence analysis of the enemy fell entirely on Shiirin. Therefore, as a perception ninja, Nishi, although his fighting ability is not very strong, his mind is more careful than ordinary people, and he is also better at analysis. At this time, his attention is completely locked on Sasuke, and he does not dare to relax in the slightest. After all, he had suffered so much under Uchiha Chen's men, so that he did not dare to look down on any Uchiha clan. Sasuke can clearly feel the powerful power brought by Susanoo's sublimation. No one knows this feeling better than him. Compared with the mature body shown before, it is obviously like the difference between clouds and mud. In this case, at least in the use of Susanoo, it won't be too far from that guy. Feeling that his control of Susanoo's ability has broken through to the complete body, Sasuke couldn't help but in the depths of his heart. I compared myself with Chen. How? My Uchiha family is not just Uchiha Chen. Let you all feel the power of Uchiha once again. Sasuke, who was completely behind Sasaka, suddenly had a fighting spirit that he had never had before. His heart ignited, and with an overwhelming look down, he arrogantly provoked Raikage. Sasuke's momentum has become stronger than before, and Raikage who is facing Sasuke is naturally clearer than anyone else, but this is far from the level that can make Raikage feel the crisis, although it is already known that the person in front of him is not Uchiha Chen himself, but Raikage's hatred for Uchiha Chen has long been deep-rooted, and as long as he hears any word about Uchiha, he will remember the shame at the beginning and become furious. At this time, in the face of Uchiha Sasuke's provocation, Raikage's anger that had already eased erupted again, and saw Raikage wrapped around a substantial arc, staring at Sasuke and roaring, I think with this little ghost can something scare me. That guy Uchiha didn't dare to come out, but instead sent you a brat to die. In that case, the old man will smash you to pieces first, and then find Uchiha to settle the account. As soon as Lei Ying's voice fell, Lei Ying's aura suddenly soared, and the thunder light on his body suddenly appeared, and he brazenly launched a violent attack on Sasuke. Under the fury of Raikage, it was like a beast flashing thunderbolts. Under the stimulation of Lei Dun, the speed was even more astonishing. It was as fast as lightning, almost teleporting, and rushed to Sasuke in an instant. Go to hell, Uchiha kid. Raikage condensed all his power on the only remaining right fist, and with his roar, his fist flashed with lightning, and suddenly rushed towards Sasuke, who was wrapped by Susanoo. Regarding Raikage's speed, although Sasuke's kaleidoscope writing wheel I can capture, the body can't keep up with the reaction of the eyes, but the power brought by Susanoo makes Sasuke swell. Facing Raikage's with the tyrannical blow, Sasuke showed no signs of fear, and frantically ran the chakra in his body, maintaining Susa's form, as if he wanted to confront Reikage head-on. Bang tilde. Reikage's fist slammed into Susanoo's body, and there was a thunderous roar. The confrontation between Susan and Reikage caused a violent fluctuation of power, and the ground under their feet could not bear it at all. This force exploded in an instant, and the endless impact force hit the thunder pond. The walls in the clubhouse collapsed, like an earthquake. Countless gravels fell from above. Many warriors who could not dodge were injured by falling rocks from overhead. I remembered the screams for a while. This wave of turmoil did not last long, and it also made some warriors who were lucky not to be affected secretly breathe a sigh of relief. However, they were also shocked by the sight of Reikage's power. A warrior swallowed hard. He said tremblingly, Is this the ninja fight? Too scary. Darui also noticed the tragic situation of the samurai, and quickly said to a leading samurai, All samurai, please step back, this is a battle between ninjas, you can't handle it, there is no need to make unnecessary sacrifices here. The samurai also knew this was the case. In fact, they didn't want to stay here. Anyway, they wouldn't help much by staying here. Instead, they were still in danger. Since the other party had already said that they didn't need the help of their samurai, they didn't need to. After another trip to the muddy water, he quickly greeted his uninjured subordinates, rescued the seriously injured samurai, and then retreated. Chapter 278, Black Flame Off the String. After the samurai had all retreated, Darui turned his attention to the direction of Reikage and Sasuke again, and said to himself, the power of the boss is too terrifying, even Uchiha soon can attack at that level. It's hard to resist. Now, Sasuke Uchiha should. However, before his words were finished, the scene that appeared on the field was completely beyond his expectations, causing him to look in shock at the direction of the battle between Reikage and Sasuke, not knowing what to say for a while. Reikage's tyrannical attack bombarded Susanoo, who had begun to take full shape, but was unable to break through Susan's Weddingu armor. Under the protection of Susan, facing Reikage was so powerful. The power of Sasuke, except that the ground under Sasuke's feet was deformed, did not cause Sasuke to suffer any damage. Seeing Susanoo, who was still standing still like a god despite his full blow, Reikage couldn't help but feel annoyed, gritted his teeth and said unwillingly, Bastard, the defensive ability of this bastard has become stronger. Damn Uchiha. The power brought by the complete body Susanoo made Sasuke full of pleasure, and his heart was already swelled. Looking at the angry Reikage, he smiled arrogantly and said, Ha 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 tilde Reikage, your attack is nothing but this, in Uchiha. In the face of the power of, and in the face of Susanoo, your attacks are meaningless. In the face of Sasuke Uchiha's arrogance, Reikage can be said to be furious. He has a grumpy temper and can't tolerate the other party's arrogance. The thunder on his body has suddenly appeared, and his momentum has reached the extreme. His hair stood on end, like a furious beast, and roared at Sasuke, Damn it, don't get carried away, do you think a mere Susanoo can resist this old man? Look at the old man smashing it. Looking at the angry Reikage, there was an unspeakable pleasure in Sasuke's heart, as if a person who had been looked down upon suddenly became a person to look up to. This sentence is more apt to describe Sasuke at the moment. All of this stems from the evolution of Susanoo, which is the power that Sasuke has been pursuing. I saw mockery in Sasuke's eyes, and sneered to the angry Reikage, Huh. Is there a Susanoo in the area? It's a shameless statement. Since that's the case, let you feel the power of Susanoo. Compared to Susanoo's huge size, Reikage seemed to be as small as a baby, and Susanoo exuded bursts of coercion, like a god and demon. As Sasuke's voice just fell, I saw Susanoo's eyes suddenly burst out with a penetrating cold light, and then under the control of Sasuke's mind, he raised his right hand into a fist, and suddenly moved towards Reikage in front and below. The bombardment came, as if to smash Lei Ying into flesh. Generally speaking, the bigger the body is, the slower the movement will be. However, the speed of this huge Susanoo when attacking is already out of the normal thinking of human beings, but this is for Reikage, whose speed is almost as fast as lightning. To say that a tortoise is compared to a rabbit, no matter how vicious the tortoise is, if it wants to catch up with the rabbit and take a bite, it is basically hopeless. I saw that the raikage that was left on the ground at the last moment disappeared in an instant when the Susa fist was just coming out. Even if Sasuke, who was wrapped in Susa, could vaguely capture the traces of raikage through the writing wheel, it would be impossible for him. It is difficult to rely on Susa's powerful destructive power to cause substantial damage to raikage. This is the Uchiha you're talking about, and is there a full-body Susanoo? It's just a show. After some dodging, raikage didn't seem to care much about Sasuke's newly evolved Susanoo. Look good, first of all, no matter what his abilities are, but from the point of view of Susa, who is currently in control of Sasuke, in raikage's view, it is simply a joke. Do you really think that Susanoo just waved his fist? HMPH, the clown jumping beam. With Sasuke's sneer, Tenno Maka ancient bow and Tenno Kaguya instantly condensed in the hands of Sasuke's complete body, Susanoo. Immediately, the coldness was revealed, and the murderous intent was overflowing. With the appearance of Tenno Maka ancient bow and Tenno Kaguya, a black energy ball suddenly appeared out of thin air in Susa's third hand. In addition to condensing the amazing chakra, there is also Amaterasu's black flame hidden in it, and this is also the reason why the energy ball appears black. As that, the legendary Tenno Maka ancient bow and Tenno Kaguya. I didn't expect that such a thing really exists, and that violent black energy ball. It seems that the next move is no trivial matter, and from judging from that guy's weapon, I'm afraid the next move won't be as easy to avoid as before. She, who is still on the sidelines, looked at the changes on the field and began to worry. The boss has activated every cell of the body with the thunderbolt. In this state, the reflex arc will become extremely fast. There is absolutely no problem. You don't have to worry too much. Although Darui and she were present. Since then, Sasuke has undergone a lot of changes, but after knowing that this guy is not Uchiha-chen after all, he has never been too worried. Those who bear the name of Shadow are not so easy to die. However, just as Darui's voice fell here, he saw that the black energy ball on Susanoo's third hand seemed to be absorbed by something, and it suddenly decreased by half, and with the energy ball with the decrease of the middle chakra, a jet black arrow with a destructive aura suddenly shot out from the ancient Tianma bow of Susanoo, and went straight to the location of raikage with the momentum of the wind and lightning. So fast. Oops. Boss. The moment the jet black arrow was released from Susanoo's hand, raikage, Nishi, and Darui, who had just discovered that Sasuke Susa's transformation was still lazy, spoke out almost simultaneously. And no matter if the three of raikage were shocked, the jet black arrow carried Amaterasu's aura of destruction, and when the three were stunned, it was already close to raikage's eyebrows. Chapter 279, Kakashi's Decision. Death. Sasuke seemed to have become extremely excited at this moment, feeling the power of his complete body Susanoo. After all, his heart, which had been longing for power all the year round, finally roared at this moment as if his wish had been fulfilled. With the rustling sound of the wind and the roar of Sasuke mixed in, the arrow, which was nearly 2 meters long, sank into raikage's forehead like this. Even with the speed of raikage, it was actually in this ancient Tianma bow. He didn't make any moves and was directly shot. Boss. Lord Raikage. The two Darui, who were still watching the battle, almost saw the scene where even raikage didn't dodge, and they were shocked and hurriedly exclaimed. Ha ha ha, this is what happens when you underestimate Sharingan and Uchiha. Sasuke, who saw the complete body Susa hit raikage with one blow, laughed a little crazy. However, although Sasuke, who felt the full power of Susan, didn't get excited about it for long, because although from Sasuke's point of view, the arrows shot by Susanoo did indeed sink in Raing's eyebrows, and then the arrow more than 2 meters long did not penetrate through the back of Raing's head, but instead looked like a slender ice strip, submerged in the boiling water. However, at this time, Sasuke and Susanoo also felt that there were many new chakras around, and Hitaki Kakashi, who had a deep relationship with Sasuke, was among them, and Kakashi at this time but he didn't want to slant the forehead guard as usual, but has changed into a fighting form, and the writing wheel eye transplanted by Uchiha Obito was also fully exposed in everyone's sight. As for what happened just now, Reikage, who was a man at the time, knew the most. Just when the pitch-black arrow was about half a meter away from his forehead, it suddenly appeared out of thin air between his eyebrows and the arrow. A distorted space. After the arrow touched the distorted space, it was like a mud cow entering the sea, and it was swallowed up by it. Kakashi. Humph, eventful guy. After Kakashi was also present in the group who felt the approach, Sasuke guessed what happened just now. This time if Kakashi used Shisui in time to write if the wheel eye's ability, Divine Might, tears the arrow in the space between Reikage will die on the spot. Sasuke, don't you want to look back now? I don't want to kill you. Since Sasuke left Konoha, he has hardly ever met Kakashi. Even the last time the Eagle Squad Sasuke only sneaked into Anbu secretly and directly fought Danzo. At this time, when the two met, Kakashi was still negotiating with Sasuke as a teacher. Ha ha ha, Kakashi, you are who you are today by relying on the abilities of the Uchiha clan. Don't always pretend to be a teacher. Don't you want to kill me? It's like you can kill me when you follow. Sasuke laughed angrily at Kakashi's remarks, and his laughter, which was almost insane, reverberated in the large stone room. Kakashi, this guy is no longer the Sasuke we know. He is now the public enemy of the entire ninja world. Looking at his current posture, it's just in vain to say more. Kakashi, Gaara couldn't help but advise Kakashi to stop thinking. After hearing Gaara's words, Kakashi's heart was also full of entanglements. Perhaps because Sasuke is a clan of Obito, Kakashi treats Sasuke like a younger brother. No matter what, Sasuke is the most proud of him. Disciple, his expectations for Sasuke even exceeded Naruto. When he was the leader of the 7th class, he taught Sasuke his best tricks, and he always put his mind on Sasuke, but as the 7th class of Naruto and Haruno Sakura, I just taught some basic chakra control training, and then nothing happened, but fortunately Naruto and Haruno Sakura had another chance, and they also worshipped under the door of Sannin, and eventually became the new Sanyu. Now that he wants to kill Sasuke, he can't help but feel a little unbearable, but Gaara's words also remind him that what he did after he defected from Sasuke has become a scourge of the ninja world. You must know that Kakashi is now acting for Hokage. Everything must be based on the overall situation. Naturally, he will not leave such a scourge for personal feelings, so even if he can't bear it, he has to get rid of Sasuke. After Kakashi got rid of the distracting thoughts in his heart, he didn't think about it anymore. His face also showed a determined look, and said solemnly, I know, don't worry, I won't be merciful. Little devil, I didn't expect you to be so young. Yet you can be as bright as a mirror in front of the big right and wrong. It's really rare. After listening to Gaara's words, Toin couldn't help but feel a touch of appreciation, and then turned to he looked at Reikage who had retreated to the side of a few people and said, Reikage, although I don't want to admit it, but no, it's really difficult to say that Susanoo is really tricky. From what I see, it's better that we join forces to kill this kid. Lest it be too late to change. Quote. Shuga, are the four shadows working together? It's really like a big enemy, but, do you think that the four of you can break through my Susanoo's defense? It's a joke. After the joint attack, Sasuke not only did not panic at all, but even more aroused his fighting spirit. As for the four shadows on Reikage's side, after a little communication, they reached an agreement. After all, the complete Susa in front of them couldn't help them despise him. After feeling the terror of the black arrow just now, he also began to acknowledge Susa's ability in his heart. In front of the four shadows, the gigantic Susanoo looked like the sky above his head, and his icy eyes looked at the four of them like he was overlooking all living beings, with a completely, let the horse come over, attitude. Cut. Damn kid, stop being self-righteous here. Looking at Susanoo Sasuke's mighty eyes, Reikage's anger welled up. Lay done, the level of thunder cruelty. After the discussion of the four shadows, Reikage took the lead in launching an attack under the stimulation of Sasuke's contemptuous arrogance. Everyone, let's make a move together, kill this guy first, so as not to change it later. Toying was talking, and he had already made his move. 2 Done, the technique of rock fist. Sand escape, sandstorm funeral. Lay done and thunder tiger kill. Quote ellipsis. Chapter 280, Strength and Light. With Rakage rushing out like a fuse, the other 3 shadows followed closely behind and shot at the same time. The joint attack of the 4 shadows was no trivial matter. For a time, the entire interior of the stone chamber was filled with thunder and dust, and the sky was amazing. The chakras rise and fall one after another, just like the vision in front of them. Chen, the combined attack of the 4 shadows is no trivial matter. If we don't make a move, even Sasuke is afraid. At this moment, Chongo, who was hiding in the dark with Chen, couldn't sit still, so he anxiously asked Chen beside him for instructions. I know, but we can't take action right now. Don't worry, Sasuke will be fine. Even if he can't resist, I can save him. Compared to Chongo's anxiety, Chen seemed very calm. Although he was very concerned about Sasuke, was also a little worried, but he didn't show it, and he was confident that as long as Sasuke had any accident, he could save Sasuke as soon as possible, even in front of sighing. Hearing Chen's confident words, out of trust in Chen, Changwu also slowly calmed his anxiety, because he knew that Chen had never let them down, not to mention that Sasuke was Chen's brother, and Chen would definitely not joking about Sasuke's safety. He must have his reasons for doing so. Although not as worried as before, Shigego and Suzuki are very curious about why Chen let Sasuke face the 4 shadows alone. Is it just to let Sasuke have some experience? Although Shigego and Shueyu were puzzled, they didn't ask any further questions. Instead, they turned their attention to the battlefield and watched the battle. Bang bang bang. During the conversation between Shigego and Tatsuya, the 4 shadows ninjutsu also smashed on Sasuke's Susanoo. The strong chakra collision made the whole room vibrate. Slowly, supporting the whole room, the pillars of the stone chamber began to crack, and then only a bang was heard, and the entire stone chamber collapsed suddenly, and the sand flew away in an instant. In the face of the 4 shadows' joint attack, Sasuke is not afraid. Although the 4 shadows' attacks are very powerful, the defensive ability of Susanoo, who has begun to take full form, is indeed even more amazing. After all the attacks, he was only knocked back a certain distance, but he did not suffer any damage, and he still stood still, and under the protection of Sasuke naturally did not suffer any damage. And the 3 shadows who just arrived were also shocked when they saw Susanoo's perverted ability, and were secretly shocked. How is it possible that this kid can block the 4 shadows and attack at the same time? The people of the Uchiha family are really not to be underestimated. Whether it's this kid or... At this time, Toying was floating in the air, a little surprised looking at Susanoo, who was majestic and exuding a gloomy aura. His brows were furrowed, which seemed to evoke some memories. Kakashi also looked at Susanoo in surprise and said in his heart, Susanoo. It's really a headache. I didn't expect Sasuke to have grown to such a level. It's not good now. Quote. And although Gaara is still expressionless, but his heart is also shocked by Susanoo. For Uchiha Sasuke, Gaara is also full of sighs, thinking that when they participated in the Chunin exam, the 2 of them once still an opponent. Ha ha ha, is this the strength of the shadow? It's really good, but in front of my Uchiha clan, it's nothing. Just relying on me, a complete Susanoo, all your attacks are in vain. After resisting the attack of the 4 shadows, Sasuke looked at the 4 shadows who were in a state of surprise, and his heart was naturally very happy, and he was even more obsessed with the power of Susanoo. Susanoo's eyes showed a penetrating cold light, and along with Sasuke's wild laughter, Susan also made bursts of tremors, making a rattling sound, as if mocking the insignificance of the 4 shadows. Hehe tilde, I have already seen your attacks. Now, it's my turn. Let me see, how are you so-called shadows, how defensive they are, and whether they can withstand Susanoo's attacks. Sasuke, whose heart was swelled rapidly, eagerly wanted to show his strength, provoked arrogantly, and at the same time controlled Susa with his mind, and was about to launch an attack on the 4 shadows. Regarding Sasuke's actions, after seeing the power of Susanoo, four shadows naturally did not dare to neglect, and stared at Susanoo vigilantly, guarding against Uchiha Sasuke's attack. However, just as Sasuke's heart swelled sharply and was about to control Susanoo to counterattack, a mutation suddenly occurred. Sasuke suddenly felt an unbearable stinging pain in his eyes, which made Sasuke couldn't help covering his eyes with his hands and let out a painful wailing, and Susanoo, who had just moved, also stopped. Moved to attack. With Sasuke's strangeness, Sasuke's chakra became extremely unstable, especially the complete body that the pupil power condensed. Susanoo also changed, becoming flickering and fainting, and finally gradually degenerated. From the complete body it turned into a mature body, and then turned into its original skeleton form, and within a moment, the entire Susanoo disappeared. Damn, my eyes. Damn, it happened at this time. Sasuke felt the passing of power and the strangeness of his body, and Sasuke understood what was going on. When it was displayed, it disappeared like this at this time. How could Sasuke be reconciled? What happened to Sasuke? The four shadows also saw it. Although they didn't know what happened to the other party, from the point of view of Sasuke's actions, it should be related to the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye, but they didn't care about it. More important it is that the troublesome Susanoo has disappeared, and without Susanoo's Uchiha Sasuke, the ending is already doomed. Little devil, it seems that you are really self-rewarding, although your kaleidoscope writing wheel eye ability is very strong, but you have stopped here. But being able to let the four shadows work together to deal with it is not a humiliation to you. In the name of Uchiha, everyone, take this opportunity to kill him. After Tsuchikage found out what was happening on Sasuke's side, he immediately informed the other three cages, showing his attitude of taking advantage of his illness to kill him.